I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Big Bear Fire Authority on June 9th, 2026. Please join me in a moment of silence. Director Rowe, would you like to lead us in the pledge, please?
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Okay. Dakota, will you take roll call, please?
Director Herrick?
Here.
Director Ziegler?
Here.
Director Hicks?
Here.
Director Melnick?
Here.
Director Putz?
Here.
Director Vero?
Here.
Chair J-Rowe?
Here.
Director Russo?
Here.
Director Walsh?
Here.
Vice Chair Segovia?
Here.
Alrighty, thank you.
Okay. We do have a few announcements tonight. This evening, we are taking a moment to say thank you to the personnel who keep our community and every part of this community safe. These are the firefighters and engineers, EMT, ambulance operators who stay highly trained, fit, and ready to attend incredibly stressful and life-altering situations at a moment's notice. Today, we acknowledge the long-term service of 3 Big Bear Fire servicemen in particular who have demonstrated their dedication to every intensive career. Glenn Schwartzman, engineer, paramedic, has been with us for 10 years. Brandon Carpenter, firefighter, paramedic, has been with us for 5 years. And Zachary Keogh, flight paramedic, has been with us for 5 years. Let us formally thank them for their service and time working for something bigger than themselves, keeping our community safe. On behalf of the board of directors, thank you for your service, Glenn, Brandon, and Zachary. Okay, do we have any announcements from the directors? No. All right. General public comment. Excuse me. As a reminder, any member of the public may address the board on items within the board's subject matter jurisdiction, but which are not listed on this agenda during public comment. However, no action may be taken on matters that are not part of the posted agenda. Please limit comments to 3 minutes per person. This time limit may be shortened by the chair to accommodate a large number of speakers. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak?
I haven't received any.
Okay, nobody today. All right, thank you. Next, we have the financial officer's report. Kristen?
This report is as of April 30th, 2026, 83% into our fiscal year. Revenues were over budget by 3%, with the bulk of property taxes having arrived in April. Expenses were over budget by 1% for the fiscal year as of April 30th. And that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Any question? No, no question.
I do have one question. I was wondering, so it's really not our property taxes that we're passing through. We're being charged service charges. So why are we calling it property tax revenue?
Property tax pass-through revenue.
But it's really service charges that we're being charged for.
I don't follow.
The fire department is providing us a service. So we're not just straight passing through our fire tax, our property tax revenue. So
our auditors have been sufficiently happy with the naming of the revenue item thus far these last 10 years. But certainly if you'd like us to change it to contributions, we can.
Yeah, it doesn't hit right now with the fact that we're not just passing our property tax revenue through. So it's just.
Well, as of current, that's true if we amend the budget. This is still based on the budget that was passed in September, so we haven't made that switch just yet.
Even though so far we've just been billing us and we've just been paying
Correct.
what we're billed.
This is based on how we budgeted for this year.
Okay.
One other, are we paying any fees as an authority to the county for property tax pass-through?
The only fees that are collected are when the property taxes arrive. They usually deduct fees on certain line items within the property tax revenues that come through. So it arrives to the Fire Protection District, to the CSD, less fees every time they get a payment.
Are we tracking that here on our budget at all? I guess my question is if it's coming out of CSD and out of PFD prior to arriving here, and we're paying, both individual agencies are paying the service fee to the county for the property tax, then why are we tracking it here? It should just be whatever dollars we provide from both agencies should be the only thing counted and not showing a service fee from the county.
Auditors typically like to see money in and money out in separate line items, so that's the way we've done it historically. Like, it's similar to the street lighting. If you'd like me to combine that all into one line item for this last fiscal year, we can certainly do that.
Well, I don't know, since we're just about through this fiscal year, I don't know that I have a need to start changing paperwork right here at the end, but again, I'm just trying to understand going forward then that whatever fee we are paying to the county for the privilege of them giving us our money back is not tracked here at the authority as an expense to the authority. Unless I'm misreading this budget, I thought I've seen that there.
If I think the question is, who's paying that fee to the county? And is it coming from the fire authority or is it coming from the original agencies prior to those amounts coming into the fire authority? Is that?
Yes, yeah.
It's coming out of the payments from the original entity prior to coming to the fire authority.
And so I think that goes to the second part of your question, which is there's no money coming out from the fire authority for those amounts. So why is it
Being tracked.
So the entire amount of the revenue is showing in the revenue piece, and the deductions are showing in the expense piece. If you put them together, it's the net payment. Certainly, if you want them on one line item, similar to the street lighting.
I don't think it's one line item. It is the revenue piece should only reflect the amount that comes from
Our check.
the host, the original agency in.
I'm saying that we can do it that way, but historically we've done it in two pieces.
Yes, as long as going forward, we can distinguish that, because essentially what it sounds like is we're paying a double fee, because the county's going to charge the CSD and FPD that service fee for the privilege of giving us our money. And then we're turning around documenting that we're paying the county from the authority for the service, for the privilege of them giving the authority the money through the individual agency. So just a better way of tracking the dollars in my mind. So something to look forward in the future. Again, I'm not interested in trying to change the boat here with less than a month to go, so. Okay. All right.
I think what Sue's saying, that she'll just put down the net amount.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pretty simple.
Well, when we say net amount, she'll just put down the amount of the check that we give her.
Correct.
Okay, as long as we understand that. Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to the consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered routine and are to be approved with one motion unless a board member, staff member requests a separate action on a specific item. Number 2, approve of demands, checks issued dated 4/1/2026 to 28, 2026. Approval of meeting minutes for the April 12th, April 14th, 2026 regular meeting of the Big Bear Fire Authority. Number 4. Approval of minutes from the May 20th, 26th budget workshop for the Big Bear Fire Authority. Do any members of the public wish to speak on these items? No? Okay. Can I have a motion?
Larry.
Oh, you have a question
Number 3.
Yeah.
Can I pull that?
or a comment?
And I'm going to abstain from number 4 since I wasn't here. And I have a question.
I'll move the balance.
So we're pulling 3, is that correct?
Okay.
Can I ask a question before we, oh, we're already made a motion, but I have a
Is
question.
it motion?
I did.
A
I'll
second?
second for
Okay,
discussion, that way we can ask a question.
Yep, I just have a question
Okay.
on
Go for it.
on the checks. Sorry, I circled them, now I can't see them. What is the policy for meal reimbursement or transfers? Because I was looking through and I note that for May 26th, we have 5 different line items for meal reimbursement for transfer, with one of them putting in 5 meals on the same day. And so I'm just trying to understand, and all of the others have 2 meals on the same day. What is the policy and why is somebody getting 5?
So historically, we've had difficulty with getting employees to cash checks for $10 here and $20 there. So now we save them and we do them monthly. So we'll do a group of them for one person at one time rather than writing 5 checks over a period of time for one person.
And that makes sense, but why do they all say that they're reimbursement for the same day? Well, no, I mean, the check can be issued on one day, but the line item should indicate.
That's the check day.
So there's no, okay. What is the policy for?
I believe the amounts that they get are, I think it's 15 for breakfast, 20 for lunch, 30 for dinner. If it's less than that, then they get the full amount.
Okay, so even though the check was issued on the 28th, it's reimbursement not for the 26th.
That's correct. It's over a period of time.
And we keep documentation and.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. Roll call, please.
Okay, this is roll call for the consent calendar.
On consent calendar.
Item number 3. Director Herrick?
Aye.
Director Hicks?
Aye.
Director Melnick?
I accept abstaining from number 4.
Director Putz?
Aye.
Director B-Row?
Aye.
Director J-Row?
Aye.
Director Russo?
Aye.
Director Walsh?
Aye.
Director Ziegler?
Yep.
Director Segovia, you're abstaining as well?
No?
Okay.
Aye.
Oh, did she call you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right, moving on to new business.
Hold on, no, item 3.
Larry
So,
pulled an item.
Director Walsh pulled item 3, which is the meeting minutes for the April 14th meeting.
Are you pulling that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Page 7, Exhibit A. In an effort to clarify, second paragraph, last part of the line says that 55 to 60% in the city, parentheses, Big Bear City. Actually, it should be City Big Bear Lake. Because that wasn't in the original statement.
City of Big Bear
It
Lake.
reversed the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
That's
That'll be corrected in the final record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to vote on that?
Yep. Move to approve. How's that?
Okay, thank you.
Second.
With that change. Okay, anybody else? Okay, moving on.
What,
Go ahead.
you need a roll call, but, can you verify that, chief? the information, yeah, I'll verify. Thank you.
Alrighty, so to approve item 3, first Walsh, second Hicks. Alright, so Director Walsh,
Aye.
Director Ziegler,
Aye.
Director Herrick,
Aye.
Director Hicks,
Aye.
Director Melnick,
Aye.
Director Putz,
Aye.
Director B-Row,
Aye.
Director J-Row,
Aye.
Director Russo, Director Segovia.
Aye.
Thank you.
Now moving on to new business. 5, tax and revenue anticipation note from Everbank, excuse NA, board consideration of adopting resolution number BFFA 2026-2 and authorizing to enter into agreement with the authority and Everbank for borrowing of funds for fiscal year 26-27. Kristen?
Okay, for fiscal year 26-27, we anticipate the need once again to obtain a tax and revenue anticipation note, or TRAN, in the amount of $3 million to cover our cash flow until our first round of property taxes comes in. Similar to years past, I anticipate withdrawing these funds in September and repaying them in January. I only anticipate the need for $2 million, but similar to last year, I'm requesting the additional $1 million to be available in the case of unforeseen circumstances such as the line fire. There's no additional cost unless we use it. The interest rate for next year's TRAN will be 6.25%, which is the same as the current year. Staff is recommending that the board approve resolution BBFA 2026-02, approving the 2026-27 TRAN loan with Everbank.
So I have a concern with the amount, because you said the same thing to us last year, that in case there was a big fire like the line fire, but indeed you did use all $3 million last year.
I did, and the reason for that, because there were timing discrepancies on payments that came in from the Fire Protection District when we were trying to figure out who was paying what and when. So we found ourselves short a few times, and that's the reason for that. But I don't anticipate that for next year.
No, because I know now the city revenue is steady. There's no hiccups with the money, so I'm just wondering why you need the $3 million. Because you know it's all set now. You know you're gonna get the money. It's not just gonna come a couple times a year, and it's not gonna be, you know, in little dribbles and drabs.
Agreed.
And we're supposed to be winding our budget down.
Agreed.
And what if this doesn't get paid, and then we're all stuck, you know, the two agencies are stuck with the $3 million or $2 million, or whatever it ends up being at the end.
The reason for the ask for the extra million is because in the year that we had the line fire, we ran short and we needed it, and we came down to a point where we had $20,000 and almost couldn't make payroll, and I don't want to find ourselves in a situation like that should a fire enter our community again. It's just a safeguard against any future major incidents that could happen. Again, it doesn't cost us anything. It's just there for safety reasons. I don't anticipate needing it for any reason unless we have some sort of major incident.
Well, I mean, just if you, which I'll talk about this later, but you know, you've provided me with a bunch of information on some loans that we have that total over $4 million that I don't really see an avenue at this point to make sure that it's going to get paid. So I'm just concerned that if you add TRAN loan money onto it, again, the two agencies could potentially at the end of this next fiscal year, there could be a big bill for each side to pay.
I think I've shown you historically, we have paid this TRAN loan off every single year in January. You can certainly decide not to pass it, but if you do, we will not have enough money for payroll.
I guess,
Okay.
Al
Director
had his
Ziegler.
hand up.
I have total trust in our financial lady, and is that what she requests? I make a motion on the floor that we go ahead and agree with her request. She's been born and raised up here, for Christ's sake, and she ain't gonna run away with no money. And so, well, I know what happened last year. I was right here. And I just don't believe that we need to handcuff our head managers, chiefs, or our financial lady or secretary or anybody else. If they make a decision and they have got my permission to do so, and I support them.
Director Hicks.
I guess part of my concern is that we are now being invoiced every quarter, if my understanding is correct. So come July, we will be invoiced for, I guess, for the quarter. And have you taken that into consideration that we will be sending over whatever our quarterly requirement is to do our 50-50 when you were looking at how much to borrow? And the second thing is, assuming that we agree to the $3 million and we hit that $3 million point, I'm looking at cost to borrow $3 million of $300,000. Well, that's what's on your paper. It says $242,000 in interest and $55,000 loan fee, application fee. So that's $300,000. That's a lot of money to borrow. And then again, that's coming out of whatever limited funds we have. So I think we need to really consider what we're doing and make sure that there's a need for us to borrow anything, especially during this first quarter, if FPD and CSD, assuming they can do it, are sending the money over, that would be required. So if we're sending some portion of, what we're looking at, somewhere around $6 million, so a quarter of that would be somewhere in the neighborhood of, what is it, 1.5 to almost $2 million. I don't understand how we need to borrow this money. I really don't.
The Fire Protection District is paying quarterly. The CSD is paying as it comes, just like they have historically. So that cash flow will not change for us. As far as the interest payments that are noted, that's if we borrowed the $3 million for the entire period of time, which I don't intend on doing. If you would like, if it would make you more comfortable, we can do what we did last year and allow this to pass, but with the caveat that if I need the additional $1 million, that we bring it back to the board first for permission. That's what we did last year. And I'd be more than happy to accommodate that next year. The bottom line is that if we do not do this, we will not make payroll if we don't have the $2 million. And if we have a major incident, we will not make payroll if we don't do $3 million.
But I guess, Kirsten, I guess my question is, have you anticipated the amount of money that you will receive from the Fire Protection District for the first quarter and taken that into consideration as to how much we need to borrow to cover cost? Again, if we're looking at $1.5 million potentially coming from the district, do we need to have $2 million?
If by chance the cash flow is more positive than anticipated, I will borrow less than $2 million. We will only borrow what we need to cover payroll during this period of time, and we don't have to pay for what we do not use.
I don't understand, but anyway, I'm done, Joe.
So I have a question. So one of the things I was going to propose is what we did last year, which is to put a policy in place. If they want to borrow over a certain amount, it has to come back to us for approval. My question is, from borrowing any of the amount, what is the timing when you realize that you need to borrow money to when you borrow the money? So what I'm saying is, so if we approved the loan and said we don't want to take any amounts against the loan without it coming back to the board first. So the line of credit's there, but you can't use it until we agree to it. Is there sufficient timing for that to be able to occur? Like, you should know in advance whether you're going to need money or not.
I guess that would depend on the outcome of the regularity of board meetings going forward for this next fiscal year. If we change it to quarterly, absolutely not. If we change it to monthly, it could probably be done. But if for some reason, if one was canceled, we would find ourselves having.
But we could have a special meeting. There's always
yes,
a way
we can do it that way, or we can anticipate making a special board meeting in September because that is when we will need it. So if you'd like another board meeting, we certainly can do that to accommodate your request.
It sounds like to balance out the risks of where I'm hearing some people come from, which is a concern about borrowing more money. If there's a real potential that we're going to need this from a cash flow perspective, so I want to make the tool available, but there isn't anything wrong with sort of adding that additional step in, which is before you borrow against it, we have a meeting, make sure we're understanding what our financial situation is and that it's actually needed. So,
Madam Secretary,
Yes.
please.
Wait, are you finished? I wanted to make sure you're finished first. Okay.
Well, I don't like the idea of doubting our financial aid in regards to know whether she knows what the hell she's doing or not. She's done a hell of a good job since I've sat here and she's sat over there. And I don't believe in the fact that we pull up the fact that we might not trust her on a certain subject and then having to bring it back to a board meeting. That might be the day that I want to go fishing. And so I don't like it. I think we ought to be able to accept our manager's request on things that make sense. And this particular thing is we're doubting her faith, we're doubting her trust. And I don't believe in doubting any of the agencies when it comes to our head people. I don't believe in it and I never will. If you hire them and you put them in that damn position, then you trust them. And I trust that lady. And I do not think otherwise.
I don't think you were doubting her.
No,
with all due
Al,
respect, this
Yeah,
has
no.
nothing to do with doubting people's ability to do their job. It
you're
has to
making
do
this
with our
personal, and it's not
oversight
personal.
of the finances, especially as we're in a year of trying to dissolve and figure out the budget. It's incumbent on us to understand where and how money is being spent as we unwind the fire authority. And this doesn't have anything to do with trust. It has to do with, it's our job.
Well, we have a gentleman 2 seats over from me that has the authority to run the damn fire department. And that would include okaying whatever that he checks and sees to it that it's all on the right track. I don't want to argue with none of you.
You're free to vote no.
Well, I'll do just that, lady.
You are free to do it.
You're damn right I do. Don't forget it.
Al, okay, we're good. Okay.
If I may, the one drawback potentially of doing that is I'm very careful with this money. So let's say I need 250,000, I will withdraw that only. And then I may need another 250,000 in a week or two, or 500 following that. I am very careful to make sure we don't incur any interest. If I have to be tied to a board meeting, I will probably request $1 million at once.
And that's absolutely understood. And I'll go back to, this has nothing to do with a lack of trust. It has to
I
do
understand
with,
that. I just want to make sure I save you interest. If I am tied to coming to a board meeting, I will ask for more than I need at one time because I will be concerned about.
and I would expect that you would.
Okay.
And
And so that would be what I would expect, which is this is what we're looking at and this is what my plan is. But especially if we're going to, I didn't realize meeting quarterly or doing something, I think it's incumbent on us to be able to do our job, to have an understanding of what's going on and what our financial condition is. And so that's the only reason that.
like
And we
always,
get billed.
you would
That's
show
what we
accountability.
Correct. We don't get billed for anything we don't use, and I only make sure that I withdraw just the right amount to cover what we need at that moment in time until we get through to January.
Get there.
Kristen, you can't tell us exactly how much it would be, like 1.9 million or 1.8, you just kind of use a generalization of 2
It's
million.
it's difficult to say, but I
It depends
anticipate,
on-
usually it's about 2 million. And even with the 2 million, I get to a point where I have to start withhold payments. So the 2 million is difficult, but I've made it work this whole time and I'll do it again. So it's difficult to project exactly, but overall, I anticipate I will need the 2 million between now and January, and it will all get paid back in January as we've done for the last 4 years.
So it sounds like you take chunks of 250 or 500.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I'd like to actually then make a motion that we go ahead and accept this with the caveat as we did last year, which was if you need to go over the 2 million, you come back for
Yeah.
the okay from the board to do so.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call, please.
We didn't take public comment.
Oh, and you,
Public comment.
Anyone like to say? Al had already made a motion.
okay.
Okay, this is roll call to approve item 5 with the caveat that any items over 2 million are voted on, correct, at a board meeting? Director Milnick,
Aye.
Director Putz.
Aye.
Director Biro,
Aye.
Director J-Ro,
Aye.
Director Russo,
Aye.
Director Walsh,
Aye.
Director Ziegler,
Aye.
Director Herrick.
Aye.
Director Hicks,
No.
Director Segovia.
No.
That passes with more than 7. Thank you.
Moving on. Proposed resolution, BBFA 2026-0-003, authorizing ambulance service fee increases. Board consideration of improving resolution BBFA 2026-003 that increases the ambulance service fees for the Big Bear Fire Authority. Kristen.
I'll be taking this one. So
Okay.
ambulance transport and service fees are established annually by the Inland County's Emergency Medical Authority, known as ISEMA. They periodically review their allowable rates and adjust them to reflect changes in costs of providing emergency medical service and transport. On October 4th, 22, Board adopted ordinance BBFA 2022-001, which established the ambulance fee structure for fiscal year 22-23, provided that all future ISEMA rate increases may be adopted by resolution. This marks the 3rd year of adopting the annual rates by resolution as authorized by ordinance BBFA 2022-001. On May 29th of this year, ISEMA provided the ambulance rate adjustment for fiscal year 26-27 with an effective date of July 1st, 26. The ISEMA rate adjustments represent a rate increase for advanced and basic life support transports and all add-on charges. We can anticipate that the increase in fees would marginally increase ambulance revenue, but the payer mix across care type and service provided can greatly affect the deductions from revenue that can result in the level net revenue experience. Proposed resolution BBFA 2026-003 increases the fire authority's ambulance service fees in conformance with ISEMA's ground ambulance rate setting policy. Recommendation for the staff is that the board adopt the attached resolution BBFA 2026-003.
Any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Directors.
Normally I would debate the increases, but in light of our situation, I'd like to make the motion that we accept the resolution.
I'll second, but I have a question.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
What, I have a
She has a
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry.
And it may not be appropriate for this, but we're talking about ambulance fees. Where do we stand on negotiating with the hospital to pay for their responsibility for ambulance transports down the hill?
Rough conversation over the last week, but they seem extremely hesitant in any abilities that they would have to pay additional money for ambulance transports.
They don't pay any money.
Correct.
And it's their responsibility. So I would, as I've offered before, be happy to participate in those conversations because it's not a responsibility of the fire authority, it's a responsibility of the hospital. And they may be hesitant and not want to do it, but that means we're paying for it and our budget is tight. And so I think it's incumbent on them to come to the table and have a conversation about it.
And if they're not willing to come to the table, then we need to come back together to say we're gonna stop it and give them some advance warning to let them know that we're done. We can't continue to support this hospital, given how much money they keep taking in and all the bonds that they keep taxing. So no, I would say at some point we need to look at just terminating that.
I'd like to amend my motion to include the board member of Melnick participate in the discussion with the hospital, considering your
I'm happy to do
expertise.
Okay.
Are you going to second
I
that?
will second that.
No, you still second it. All right, roll call, please.
All right, this is a vote to approve a resolution authorizing ambulance service fee increase. Director Hicks,
Aye.
Director Melnick,
Aye.
Director Putz,
Aye.
Director Rowe,
Aye.
Director J-Ro,
Aye.
Director Russo, Director Walsh,
Aye.
Director Ziegler,
Okay,
Director Herrick,
Aye.
Director Segovia.
Aye.
Thank you.
Number 7, Big Bear Authority meeting schedule. As presented by you, Director Hicks. Chief, would you like to explain this, please?
Yes. Without going through the exact background timeline and the dates, we're all very well aware that at this time, both CSD and the Fire Protection District have voted and approved the dissolution of the Fire Authority. And as a discussion point during the budget workshop, was talking about ways that we could further save money. So this is just a discussion point for the board to consider. If we reduce down our meetings from monthly to quarterly, which is a requirement based on the bylaws, and I believe it's also stated in the JPA, fiscal impact will be determined by the board of directors. Staff requests the board of directors provide direction on forthcoming meeting schedules, and we have the 26-27 meeting schedule laid out for you to view as well.
But we could call a special meeting if needed, correct?
Call special meetings.
Any questions? Oh, any members of the public, do you have any questions on this or comments? Any board members?
I'll just comment on it. I was, as we're looking at ways to save money as a suggestion for us to discuss, since we couldn't discuss it at that particular moment. And if it makes sense, then quarterly meetings make sense and call special meetings. I don't know if it would relieve some of the burden of staff as well, staff time going into our meetings. If it does, I think that would be a benefit as well.
I would say it makes sense. If we have to meet, then we can do a special meeting to satisfy that. And there are other costs of staff time and hours that are required to support us at these meetings. So I can support going to a quarterly meeting schedule.
I disagree. I'm not talking about what Mr. Hicks said, but let me tell you something. I might be half retired, but you know what? I'm able right now to look at the calendar and I see different meetings that's coming up and I have to work my fishing time around it. And so I don't think it's fair to some of us that's have been there for years and years and years and we've never missed a damn meeting. And when it comes to the fact that, you know, you have a special meeting, but then maybe I've already made plans for a vacation or some damn thing. So even though I get paid and I get paid good, I don't mind it that way, but I don't believe that we have to work around that. Sorry.
Anybody else?
I think my only question is quarterly sufficient to get done what we need to get done and for you to get answers from the board for the things that you need to have answers from? That's for me what it comes down to is meeting quarterly with special meetings sufficient for what you need to do?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I don't know as to what this process looks like over the next year, but
Right.
you know, again, it was a discussion item for, you know, potential ways to save some money. It's at the comfort level of the board. And again, you know, if we run into something where we need to get together, then, you know, we put the announcement out, we check availability, and we bring us back together for a special meeting.
Yeah, Director Butts.
Is there a proposed schedule of the quarterly meetings?
We did not
Okay,
draw that.
if I could request that, assuming this passes, if you could email everybody with set dates.
Just to note procedurally, this would be to provide direction to staff in our office to come back. This it would take a formal amendment to some of the board's policies, so it would actually be considered at next month's meeting or whenever the next meeting that is held is, and could be firmed up at that time. But if the board has direction on which months those quarterly meetings would occur, that would be helpful.
So what you're saying, Nick, is we wouldn't move to a quarterly schedule until after the July meeting?
You could start to, essentially, the board could start to cancel meetings and sort of go to that new schedule immediately, but technically, formally, there are certain policies that need to be updated.
Chief Wagner, you were going to schedule a July meeting anyway, correct?
Yes, it was
Okay.
ready for that.
And then
So
change it after that.
We could have the meeting in July and do the first month of the quarter and then adjust based on that
Correct.
October, I guess.
in October.
How much are we saving? I'm just like, as we look at the whole budget, I mean, I understand like we're cutting meals for us when we have board meetings and we're looking at cutting meetings that I mean, this is our job, is to be a board that oversees the fire authority, whether we have voted to dissolve or not. We have fiduciary obligations and community obligations. And I'm just wondering, how much are we saving? And is the trade-off the right trade-off? And if we don't need meetings, then we cancel meetings, as opposed to, I'm just wondering, are we looking for pennies? And is a reason to stop doing our job because of finances the right reason? And if we can do our job quarterly, that's fine. I just want that to be the reason that we're doing this, not from a budget perspective, because we can find other places to cut in the budget than board meetings.
Because we were gonna have meetings every other month anyway. We weren't gonna have them every month, like we used to every other month.
And my suggestion was the side benefit is saving a little bit of money. But one of our jobs is to vision the future, purchase equipment, all these sort of things that are becoming irrelevant. And so it just seemed to me like we wouldn't occupy as much time as well. So we could do our job based upon what the mission is, which is to get to the end of next year, fiscal next year, in a solid manner where we're not losing service.
And we're talking $2,000 each quarter. So that's, we're looking at $8,000. Yeah, that may be pittance, but 8,000 here, 8,000 there becomes real money after about the third 8,000.
Yeah, but we're spending $350 a month on kind bars and water bottles.
Sure.
If I could, Joe Kate.
Yes.
To supplement what Rick said, I've noticed that there is an increase in fire protection district meetings. So in terms of our role of doing our job and providing our function, I think, I'm not speaking for CSD, I'm speaking for fire protection district, I've noticed that shifting from here to fire protection district meetings. So there might be, so far I think there has been, a compensating increase over in the fire protection district, just to consider. I don't want to paint a picture that we're shirking on our responsibility.
I feel like my
Kind of
words
sounded that way though. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, not you.
No, I don't want my words to be twisted, and that was not what I was presuming that you were saying. I just wasn't at that meeting to understand how this came about and the genesis of it. And I just want to make sure that we're thinking through all of these pieces. And if it was brought up from a budgetary perspective, that I just want to make sure that it's not just from a budgetary perspective. You explained that that wasn't your thinking, so I appreciate that.
Mr.
Well, I guess we've been doing it wrong. We've got a year to go together, and I love the people I serve with, and I do have faith and trust in them. And if it's worked all these years the way we've done it, leave it the hell alone. Don't be changing it now. Let's leave it alone. Thank you.
Okay, so do you want to go quarterly? Do you want to continue every other month?
I'll make a motion that we go quarterly,
Okay.
That we give direction.
that we give direction to staff to establish that we go quarterly based on the first month of the quarter.
So we have one in July, and then the next one would be in October. Correct? And if there's anything that comes up in between, you will be notified, correct? And any of us can bring something forward to Chief Wagner.
Well, what is the process for getting a special meeting called? Who can do that, Nick? Can any board member do that? Or do you have to get the chair on board? How does that work?
Under the Brown Act, the special meeting can be called by the chair or by a majority of the members of the body.
How do you get the majority if you don't meet?
It's tricky. You have to basically have someone propose an item, but not discuss the substance of that item outside of a meeting. So it's just say, I would like to call a special meeting on XYZ item. You can't talk about why, get into discussions amongst the majority. You just have to get the majority to inform the board secretary that you'd like to call a special meeting. It can be difficult to do without violating the Brown Act itself. So typically, a special meeting is called when the chief would have an item, would go to the board chair, say, a special meeting needs to be called, it gets agendized.
How many people do we need for a special meeting?
Just a quorum, so 6 or more.
No, I mean, how many people have to request a special meeting?
It has to be requested by a majority. The simplest way though would be for one or more of you to just go to the board chair and ask for that special meeting to be called.
And if she doesn't want to do it, then you have an option.
Correct.
Well, but do you? I mean, that's kind of where we are, which is we're historically been 5-5. So I just imagine that trying to get any special meeting on the agenda could be a real challenge, given the challenges as an authority that we have faced. We haven't been able to get consensus on most things.
Director Walsh.
Nick, we as board members can't dialogue, but the chief can speak to each one of us and determine or explain to people why there's a need for the meeting, right?
As long as he's not communicating the views of other board members.
Serially.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so where do we stand?
Randy.
Oh, I'm sorry, Randy.
Nick, maybe you could do some checking on this. So at the city, we have in our rules, in our procedures, that there's multiple ways we can create meetings that don't take a majority. It just takes either 2 people.
That's for an agenda.
It's for adding an agenda item. It's usually added to whatever the regular meeting is next. But not to call a meeting itself.
I'm confused.
But
Okay.
would we be able to amend something that's either the chair or the vice chair could call for a special meeting?
The board could adopt policies to allow that.
So I'd like to make a motion, we keep the schedule as is, but intentionally cancel 2 of the meetings per quarter, but they're on the books so that we can just call the meeting.
Okay,
All
so
right, then let me withdraw my motion then.
Like, just,
Did
well,
you
yeah,
amend-
nobody seconded your motion, by
Yeah,
the
but
way,
did you
so
amend
I'm overriding your motion with my.
See how you are?
so we're going to meet every other month.
No.
No, it would
Every
be,
month?
basically, the intention is once a quarter, but leave the schedule as is, so that,
If we need a meeting.
if we need a meeting, we just have a meeting. We don't have to go through requesting a
Okay.
meeting.
I mean, that makes more sense to me, that it's easier to cancel a meeting than try and get a meeting going.
Is that a second?
I'll second that, I can do that.
So just for clarification, direction to the chief to cancel 2 of the 3 meetings unless there's business that needs to be conducted.
Already.
Chief Wagner, you got that?
No. I didn't quite understand. We're gonna cancel?
We're gonna have
Unless there's.
We're gonna have monthly meetings as scheduled, but cancel them if we don't need them. Is that correct?
That's basically correct.
Okay.
Just try
Just
to
in
have the
case.
first one of the quarter, the one,
Mhm.
and then the other 2 as needed.
Okay. All right.
Director Russo?
Public? Public comment?
I asked for that earlier.
Yeah.
I did ask for that earlier, sorry.
Director Russo?
Aye.
Director Walsh?
Aye.
Director Ziegler?
No,
Director Herrick?
Aye.
Director Hicks?
Aye.
Director Melnick?
Aye.
Director Putz?
Aye.
Director Bevro?
Aye.
Director J-Ro?
Aye.
Director Segovia?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. 8, proposed amendment to the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget. Hey, Kristen or Chief Wagner?
I'm just gonna put up a PowerPoint really quick. Authority's current budget was adopted on September 9th, 2025, with a positive fund balance contribution of 1.2 million, which represented full funding from both partner agencies, as is represented up here. At the March 12th, 2026 Finance Committee meeting, a proposed amended budget was proposed that included invoicing each party for $7.1 million, or half of the authority's budgeted expenses as instructed per each side's attorneys, with the understanding that the CSD only has the ability to contribute $6.2 million. This resulted in a negative fund balance contribution of $129,000. The Finance Committee recommended this amended budget be brought to the full board in April with one change, which was to have FPD contribute the additional $129,000 in order to make the bottom line zero, with no cuts to service and no use of fund balance. As instructed, this budget was brought to the April 14th board meeting. It did not pass, and there was not support to have FPD fund the negative $129,000 had it passed. At the May 19th budget workshop, staff was asked to bring the amended budget back again to this meeting to try again for approval so that the budget formally reflects what is occurring. Again, each side's attorneys agreed that the authority should invoice each party $7.1 million, 50% of the authority's expenses. The FPD has already paid their share this fiscal year, and the CSD is paying as they receive the funds up to what the final amount will be ultimately that they will receive for property taxes for fiscal year 25-26. Staff recommends that the board consider amending the fiscal year 25-26 budget to reflect a negative fund balance contribution of $129,000 as requested at the May budget workshop.
Do any members of the public have a comment on this? Directors?
I don't think this really is a 50-50 budget, because what happens if at the end, how much has CSD put in so far?
Your microphone.
It's just,
I'd have to look at what that exact number is so
I
far.
think it's about $6.2 million.
If you're talking about what's projected for this fiscal year, yes.
So what you projected all along is that they were gonna put in 7.1 or whatever it was, and they, by their tax revenue, they don't get that.
That's correct. So again, going back to the Finance Committee meeting, at that committee meeting, it was recommended that we move a budget forward for this fiscal year. In a scenario where the Fire Protection District, which they have already paid the 7.1, understanding that the CSD only has the 6.2, which puts us at a negative 129. That was the Finance Committee's recommendation, and that's what was brought forward to the board. So that's what we're bringing here to you today. If you'd like to change that, feel free, but that's what this budget is.
Because I believe we directed you at the last meeting that we wanted it to actually show a 50-50 budget.
You did for next fiscal year. It was our understanding that for this fiscal year, we were going to look at it the way that in this view, and the way that the Finance Committee recommended that we push it forward.
That wasn't my understanding.
Okay, in the event that you want to change it to exactly 50-50, we would have to write a check to the city for what you have already paid us, because it was agreed to pay, we received it, and if you would like to change it, we would have to then pay you back and change the budget going forward.
It seems like legally, if we're showing a budget that we know they can't pay, it's not really a good representation of what is actually happening on the ground.
It does show what they can pay in the budget, in the details. It shows FPD with the 7.1 and it shows the CSD with the 6.2. So it is detailed out within the budget that you have in your packets in that manner, should you choose to approve it that way.
Yes.
Are you done? So the difference between the two is 900,000, 800,000.
approximately.
Okay. When everything is said and done at the end of 2027 fiscal year, there might be a fund balance that's left at that time. My suggestion might be, and not to put us in a bad situation, because we need the TRAN money, I understand that. But possibly in the fourth quarter payment, that payment is adjusted based upon that difference that we have in there. It should be able to get us to the end of the year.
Adjusted for the difference for this fiscal year? Because for next fiscal year.
Yeah, well, it would happen, we couldn't do it this fiscal year because we put ourselves in a crunch, I understand that. So it's basically projecting into the next fiscal year, the amount that we are off currently right now. And then make that, again, that fourth quarter payment, that's where the adjustment takes place.
So for next fiscal year, what I'm proposing is exactly what Kendi said, exactly the same amount contributed. So I'll be presenting that next. But so are you saying that for this fiscal year, that amount that's different, you'd like to see that applied in the last quarter of next fiscal year?
Yeah, and obviously there have to be a discussion regarding it.
Okay.
But yes, that would be my thought and my suggestion, so that we can kind of put this side of it to bed, because nobody's going to be writing a big check at this particular moment. I don't see that, to try to even this out. And what we've paid, we've already paid. But I think in order to be fair, I think it makes sense, again, to have a discussion going into the fourth quarter of next year of what that difference is and what the cash is that's available at that particular time.
That makes sense, understood.
Does that make sense to everybody?
I'm not sure I'm completely following.
So your CSD is in deficit of, I'll say 800,000.
But it doesn't show that because it's saying that the only amount that they're supposed to be giving is the 6.25.
No, I understand.
So I agree with you, but I think this number on page 2 needs to reflect what they were supposed to give if it was 50-50, which would be the same amount, and then there would be that negative number of 800,000. Right now, if we approve this budget, it's only saying that CSD's obligation was 6.249 and our obligation was 7.14. And if we vote on that, then what we're saying is we have agreed to pay an additional $800,000.
My motion would be to make sure that it is clear regarding the deficit. And again, I won't be on the board, and several of us won't be on the board, but it would have to be brought back up if the motion that I intend to put forward goes through. Then we'd have to take action on it. The board, would have to take action on it going into the fourth quarter of next year, adjusting what our fourth quarter payment would be to adjust down to the amount that would compensate for what is missing in 2026.
Going along with what Perry's saying is what's wrong with the budget reflecting the 25-26 budget reflecting the right number.
Well, it does reflect it. I don't know that, I wouldn't know how you would otherwise do it except put the number down, then have to put a parentheses number underneath it.
There is one on page 2. If you look underneath the property tax, there's an asterisk that says FPV property tax contribution exceeds CSD's by $1 million. So it is documented there.
Small letters. Small type.
On page 2.
Except that the problem is the number itself so that 6.249390 for CSD should be 7.138834. And then you put the negative amount. So it's reflected that that's what was supposed to be given, but they only gave the 6.249. Because that way we're showing that it was both parties were supposed to give the same. Right now, all it says is that we agreed to give $800,000 more.
Another way to accomplish this would be to adjust both down to the CSD amount and then show a credit that we're giving additional. So same difference. Is that any easier to do?
I didn't quite follow, I'm sorry.
Well, I think what Perry's getting at is you want to account for the discrepancy. Correct?
What I want to show, what I believe it should show, which is what we all agreed to, was a 50-50. And so those amounts need to be the same of what was expected. Either one party didn't give it enough, or the other party gave more than they needed to.
But the one party that's our total tax revenue.
I understand,
So-
but we had a budget of,
Then
That-
yours should be taken down. Cause obviously they can't give any more than they take. That's their tax base.
What would happen if, Kirsten, you were to show that 7.1 million, then under the CSD line, you show a negative bracket of whatever the shortfall is, and then as the subtotal for CSD, you show that final amount of $6 million.
No problem, I can do that.
And I think that would show what you're talking about, because the top line would show the 7.1 that they owe, we're supposed to pay. The negative is what they're short, and then the net from that would be the 6 point.
I'll just move this annotation up into the number line. I'll just move it up.
And that would codify that, I think.
It's clearer that way. It is noted in here, but it would be clearer to put it
well,
on the line.
because all it says is that they gave less. It doesn't say that they were obligated to give the same amount.
Right.
And that's the
The attorney is coming out in you.
But we can show
as
that,
I live and breathe, can't help it.
we can show the shortfall, and then also show the note that they were short, but they were obligated to pay more.
And that's, I think, what's missing.
I would prefer to show that we're giving more than they're paying less.
No, it should show what the JPA says, which is 50-50.
Well, but if they can only give 6.2, then the 50-50 would be we give 6.2, and if we're overfunding, then you could show that in the same manner that we're talking about with a separate additional line item that shows we're giving additional money on top of that.
But did we give it as a loan?
No,
No, I'm not
I
saying,
don't know, that's a
I'm
good
not saying that there's an aim, but if you just give it as an additional credit, what does that?
Well, hopefully my motion is clear, that whatever the difference is, the fourth or third quarter of next year's budget, it's discussed what that number is, and an adjustment from the fire protection district is made in order to even that out.
But the same question's gonna apply, Perry, if it's shown as them paying short. Is they're paying short, do they owe that in the future? I mean, it's the same question. It's just, do you want to treat it as a credit or a deficit? But I guess it doesn't really matter. So,
Well, in our
It's the same-
case, actually, I agree with you, it should be listed as a credit as opposed to a debit. Because we want that credit next year with that final payment. Again, it'd have to be discussed to make sure that we're not gonna hurt services.
and I would offer that if we approve it with a deficit, then to your point of we're knowingly approving a budget that says it's not 50-50. Whereas if we show it equal amounts based on what they can afford, and then we show an additional amount, we're funding it 50-50 and we're kicking in extra.
But will you give that extra money?
We don't know.
Well, this is last year's budget. Didn't we already give it?
I think
Yeah,
we've already,
we've
we've already given it.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
like when
matter
you go to
of,
this, you return something, you get
but
credit.
it's a matter
And
of
credit's
how
gonna-
it is
We already gave the second one.
or
We've
accounted
already given it.
for and the expectations around it.
Okay,
As long as
what
it's clear.
if it says, going down a little bit down the Randy path, that both of them, I know, it's scary, that
Mark
each
this day on the calendar.
both are contributing $6.2 million. And then under FPD, it says, due to the shortfall, FPD will make up the shortfall of 1 point whatever million it is, whatever the number is, with the expectation, and you show it on that line, of being reimbursed in the 26-27 budget. That would show both parties supposedly doing the equal 50-50 split. We are making up the shortfall with the expectation that we're gonna be repaid at the end of the 26-27 year. I think that would satisfy your concern.
the problem is we won't have any control over the decision making for the next budget.
Yeah.
Oh, you never,
Well, at least the majority.
Well, I have a feeling this issue will have to work itself out
It will.
when we get into the details of
Of the
this.
closed
And what I'm just trying to, is to make sure all options are available and based off of how, how things are put in this budget, that we are, not losing options as we go forward. And so
I
that's,
don't think we are. I mean, my whole
that's
point
just,
has
that's my
been-
concern. I'm not an accountant, is I just want to be very sensitive about how and making sure that we're accurately documenting it so there isn't any, that we're not losing. I'm trying to.
It's not getting swept under the carpet, which has
Right.
been my intention from day one,
Yes.
to make sure that we are clear when we are in a deficit situation with our partner. And that it's not, I think we're doing it properly now. Where before, I don't think it was done properly. It was mixed up in the budget. It was hard to figure out at times, so.
Or we could make it as part of the budget resolution that we're recovering excess.
Well, that's my motion.
Yeah, well, just make it part of the budget resolution that we're covering $1.2 million more than what is required, with the expectation that this will be reimbursed during the next fiscal year. And that's about all we can do, because we can't have this place be short of $128,000. That just doesn't work for anybody. So that's about as close as I think we can get to going forward with this.
So where do we stand right now? You made a
Well,
motion?
My motion is, and it's actually the exact amount that's footnoted, is $1,018,346.
Yeah, but that still gives us a $128,000 deficit.
I don't think, does that?
Yeah, going to the fund balance.
Well, it just comes out of the fund balance. I don't care about
That's
that.
correct.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about the difference between
That's right.
the fire district's payment and CSD's payment. Okay, is this 1 million, is that noted correctly? Okay,
is,
and that's what the difference is. However, it is memorialized, I think, we're trying to make it clear that I think it's memorialized in the note here, but if you, however you want it, want a credit or do you want a debit? So it's either going to be a credit for the fire district or a debit for the CSD on a particular line, because I agree with you. It's just clearer that way.
Make it a credit.
But we already all agreed that we're gonna do stuff 50-50, so I think it's important that the budget demonstrates that we're approving a budget of 50-50. So-
It is if you credit it that way.
Right, but if we showed it 6.2, and then what the additional 1.1 as an additional contribution by,
It's a credit on our
I think
side.
that accomplishes a couple things.
That's
It gives
why
us
I agree with you.
protection. So do you wanna amend, or do you want me to do a substitute for that?
Well, I wasn't specific with exactly how it was going to be memorialized.
Okay,
But I
well,
said
I'll
I did
defer to
agree,
you.
I did agree with you, so, Dakota, help me out. Where am I at this point? Because
So as I understand it, say it's Hutz and Herrick approving a 50-50 budget plus, but shown with an additional credit from FPD in the amount discussed.
yes, does that work?
That works. So I'll second that. You're okay with that change, or however we get there.
Okay.
As long as it's specified that this extra amount is to be repaid at the end of the next fiscal year.
Well, that was part of my motion.
I didn't hear that from Dakota. That's all.
No, I didn't hear it either. So what the motion also includes that for the fourth quarter of 2026, 2027 budget payment, which would be the fourth quarter payment, that there would have to be discussion. It depends how much money's sitting in the account. We just don't know how much is
I'm
sitting.
guessing,
I was gonna say, it seems like there are two items that are coming up here. One is dealing with an item that is from the current year's budget, and then how it's addressed next year. So it is the desire to have the board address how that amount is reflected in a budget document for the current fiscal year, but then actually when you turn to the next item and have a discussion next year's budget, you actually have something firm about how that is dealt with. So I just want to clarify.
I actually want them linked. I know why you want to break it up, but I want them linked. The reason why we're doing this. I think it's important to do that.
As long as the board takes a consistent action on the next item and what that budget says, and as long as those two items or budgets speak to one another, I think that's okay. But I just want to note that essentially the decision you would make on this item would dictate a potential change to the budget for the next item.
Well, I agree. Depends on how much cash is left in the fourth quarter. That's going to be the key.
Right, which is
to making this work or not work.
I just want to make sure that that's clear for the board, that a decision on this item will impact the next item as well.
Okay.
Maybe we're anticipating actually having I'll call it a surplus of cash at the end of fiscal 2027 of 2.5 million. That's what's anticipated. So I don't think it affects the budget part of it. Unless something completely goes haywire that we can't anticipate.
Yeah, I defer to the authority's special counsel if she wants to opine on this, but part of the dissolution and money that is left over at the end of a JPA, it's debts or cash on hand minus liabilities, and then there's usually it's divided up as set forth in the JPA agreement. I haven't looked at those provisions, but the default, my assumption would be is that it's 50-50. So if the board is going to be taking a different course on what happens with money that's left over at the end.
Well, it is a liability. I'm trying to memorialize this liability.
Well, I think that to memorialize the liability, my recommendation would be to use the 7.138 number, because then it's a liability as opposed to a credit, which is not necessarily a liability.
Yeah, showing CSD's liability, right?
You're showing, okay.
Work with me on this. So fast forward, right? And there's an argument that's made. No, you guys approved a budget where you overfunded it. You knew what you were doing. You talked about it. You did it. So no, we don't owe you anything.
But I think that argument goes both ways, which is we approved a budget with two lower numbers with an additional credit. I mean, I think the argument is the same. We're now approving a budget that says that we were both supposed to give 6 point whatever, but we agreed to give another 800,000. You knew what you were doing.
In case it's helpful, I can let you know what the joint powers agreement says about the dissolution of assets and property upon termination. It might help guide the discussion. First, so upon termination, the JPA dictates that first, if either party is in default of any obligations, you got to pay off your debts. Second, any other funds on hand have to be used to liquidate and wind up the affairs of the authority. And then third, any surplus funds on hand remaining after the satisfaction of the first two sections, surplus funds shall be returned to the parties in proportion to their proportional financial contributions made to the authority.
Can you just point me to the sections, please?
Sure. 10.3C is the provision of the joint powers agreement that I just read. And then, fourth, there's a provision about the assets and property that are being controlled by the authority being returned to the party that owned the property at the time of creation. I think we have some guidance on that already from the discussion we had at the board meeting last week. And then fifth, any remaining property and assets have to be divided and distributed among the parties pursuant to a separate agreement of the parties entered into at that time. So if if there's the $2 million surplus at the end of the year and the parties wish to distribute it in a way different than in proportion to their proportional financial contributions made to the authority, then you can do that through a separate negotiated agreement. So
Randy, I think
I'm not sure. I'm just saying I'm not sure a motion and a vote today on what to do with the surplus at the end of fiscal year 27 is sufficient to satisfy the joint powers agreement. It contemplates if you're going to do something other than the JPA dictates that you do it through a separate agreement that's negotiated and written by and between the
if
parties.
you look at section 10.3, if either party is in default of its obligations to pay or advance any amounts due, so that would be a budget of 7.1 each theoretically, but that one party did not pay that amount would be in essence a default to pay amounts due, as opposed to a credit where we both agreed to pay 6.3.
Okay, but are we in agreement that we need? No, we're not. Never mind. So where does that leave us?
Flip a coin.
Yes.
Well, but where does that leave us with your motion?
Well, my motion, which I was trying to clarify, actually had to do with what we're talking about right now.
Right, but what,
So,
can you restate the motion?
They want to know if we're going to amend that budget or not.
Yeah,
That's
but
what they're
it's
proposing.
more specific than that, right?
Yes.
Well, it has to do with just accounting for, as opposed to a footnote in the budget, which is being proposed right now that states that the differences of 1 million plus, that you put it either as a credit on our side or a liability on the CSD side.
Okay,
My
which one?
question further is that, and I hear the argument regarding this, but it's a liability of which will have to be taken care of. We can take care of that in the fourth quarter payments.
Okay, so then if I'm following, especially based on what Perry just said, it's probably more consistent to show it as a liability as opposed that they're short funding as opposed to us overpaying. Does that make sense? Okay, so is that your motion? I'm just trying to understand where we're at.
Yeah, I think we had made a motion, I think you seconded it with being a credit, but I will amend it to being listed as a liability.
Okay,
So does that mean we wouldn't be approving this tonight, right, until we see it?
No, we're approving it.
we're approving it with that direction.
Just to be clear, then that $1 million, since it will have to be taken from the revenue coming in next fiscal year, will need to be an additional budget adjustment for next fiscal year. We'll have to drop the revenue by $1 million. I think that's what he was referring to, that this is going to impact
Sure,
the
I
next.
totally understand. We're just setting
I just
policy
want to
now.
make sure we're on the
not
same page.
voting on the budget.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for that
And so,
clarification.
and typically a liability would be, you know, an action taken by the board, for example, to take out a loan or to purchase a thing. So if the board is going to treat the payment as a liability, I guess, yeah, my concern is that it's not separately agendized. I don't know, Nick, if you want to weigh in, separately agendized under the Brown Act as an action to incur that liability. But if you want to wrap it up into the motion,
It's my understanding that rather than it being a liability, it's going to be a reduction in property tax revenue next fiscal year.
Okay.
Am I correct?
Thank you.
That's a good way to put it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I'll second that.
Okay.
Dakota, you want to read it back?
Okay, there.
Okay, so please correct me if I'm wrong. Still, Herrick and Putz, directing us to show a 50-50 budget based on the $7.3 million FPD contribution. Then to be shown reflected in the 26-27 budget as less funds.
I think it is.
Right?
it needs to show that there's a shortfall though.
Yeah, I thought we were making that it was gonna show the CSD was gonna be contributing more and then therefore making it a liability.
Do you wanna, Rick, help Dakota out by restating it?
Okay,
Do you want me to help out by restating it?
so the first part is perfect. The second part is that the difference for this is the 25-26 budget will be noted, which we're approving tonight, showing the 50-50 budget of the 7.1 million noted, and what's the best way to put it, Kristen? You're going to parenthesize the difference on the budget.
It will be shown as I guess I never quite heard which side you want, FPD or CSD. Do you want it to be shown as a additional amount in the FPD? Or
No, we just decided that it would be,
okay,
I should be on the CSDs.
the CSD. Okay, so it'll show 7.1 minus what they could not afford to pay.
Yes.
And then that amount is going to move forward into the next fiscal year as a reduction in property tax revenue in 26-27.
Yes, I think that's the best way to put it.
Okay, Larry, you have comments?
To Mr. Putz's comment, a budget was approved with roughly 8 million fire protection, 6 million CSD. And now you want us to amend that to put the CSD in a position of encumbering future income in order to make up the difference.
No, that's incorrect. It lowers our obligation in the future. What you're saying is incorrect. You'd still have your obligation for what your tax collection is to pay that.
What I can see is that we agreed to a budget 8 to 6, and now you want to change it back to 50-50.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and we all agreed to that.
No, we all did not.
I'll
Yes.
agree to that.
Yes,
It-
we
I
did.
believe we did.
10-0.
No, it failed,
No, when we
I don't
agreed to
believe so.
follow the JPA.
Okay,
no, the last vote failed.
okay, guys, I guess the simple part here is, Chief, you might want to start looking at shutting down Sugarloaf Station. Because if we're gonna end this year $128,000 in the hole, unless you're gonna take it out of the fund balance, it's not gonna work. Because all we're saying is, let's bring it back to what we're both supposed to pay. And if we can't live with that, and if we can't get a budget passed tonight, then for this fiscal year, then we need to start shutting something down.
This is last fiscal year. We haven't done
This fiscal year.
This is this fiscal.
This
But
fiscal
we're
year.
not talking about this fiscal year yet.
Yes,
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 we
we
are.
are.
Yes, we are.
No, this is a 25, I
Yeah.
see, 20, I got it.
So, we're going around and around in circles. We paid too much. CSD paid what it could pay. We paid in excess. All we're looking for is to get reimbursed for that excess, and that's it. And unless folks want to change it, then let's start looking at shutting something down. Let's get this budget balanced, and we'll go from there. And if Sugarloaf's the station, let's shut it down.
I think for me, I'm just trying to have the budget reflect the facts of, we agreed 10-0 to be 50-50. We had a budget, we understand we had operating expenses. I don't know how it's gonna be handled in the next year. I can't speak to that. I know you have ideas and hopes of how it would potentially be handled. We don't know, but the budget that we are operating under should accurately reflect what the agreement is between the parties. And it is a 50-50 JPA. And we understand that one side has the ability to pay more than the other. We spent 2 years trying to figure out how to have more money. I mean, we've spent more than that. But the budget as it currently is does not reflect accurately what the JPA says, what we all agreed to follow under the JPA. And all we're saying is that the budget should accurately reflect what the parties agreed to. I can't speak for next year because we're not there yet. We're not allowed to be there yet, but I'm just talking about 25, 26.
And if I recall correctly, the reason we're even having this conversation now is because we asked for the budget to be brought back so it could more accurately reflect the 50-50 funding, correct?
Which is what we all agreed to.
Which is what we wanted, what we agreed to, what we're trying to do now. I think the only issue is just how do we notate that?
Yes.
Yes.
It's really that simple, is how do we notate that?
And currently, the way it is with the footnote doesn't indicate that the parties agreed to a 50-50 budget. That's the issue. The budget does not accurately reflect what the parties agreed to, which was 50-50.
And what we asked for. So we hope, well, we'll see when we vote, but it sounds like there's some amount of consensus that it needs to reflect 50-50. And then I think where we're settling, or where the motion is going, or has gone, is that we would like that, we propose that to vote on, that the discrepancy is shown as a deficit.
And I believe that was what Christian described
Okay.
in your initial dialogue.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, but when Larry brought up his issue, I want to make sure we're clear that we're doing what we asked and what we agreed on is the 50-50 thing, and we just have to arrive at, and frankly, the FPD is willing to and is in a position to help out, get us over this hump, and we just want that notated. So if that's going to create heartburn, then to Chuck's point, we may have much bigger issues ahead of us.
I think we want it notated, but we want to make it clear we want our money back.
It might
Really?
When it gets
There might not
dissolved.
be money to get
Well,
back.
yeah, I'm not going there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my intention right now on what we're doing is to accurately reflect what we've all agreed to. I can't speak to what's going to happen in the next year. I don't want to cut service. That is not the intention. That's not my intention. I just want this budget that we are currently working on to accurately reflect, to leave open all options as to what happens in the next year and in the future. But if we don't have a budget that accurately reflects it, then, well, one, it's not right. Two, I think it closes doors of
Well, our finance manager is fine with that.
Yeah,
With presenting it.
Makes
I
sense.
would hate to see us go through another round of not passing budgets again when
Well, we've done it.
this last meeting, we concluded that we would do it 50-50 and that we would figure out how to do that. We're just trying to make the
Document.
note a little bit larger as opposed to a footnote on the existing budget that we have right now, and it's a good point to it. And, you know, hopefully we can get there. It's been difficult.
I mean,
Anytime we get to a budget issue, for years, it's been difficult.
Are we call for
Hopefully
the
we can do
question?
this one.
Call for the question.
So are we voting for the budget to show both sides are paying 7.1? Is that what we decided?
Yes.
and then what's the other stuff? I get that part.
Well, we're gonna vote on it, Candy. We haven't decided yet.
Yeah.
That's the motion.
But that's the motion, that it would show CSD and FPD both putting in 7.1.
With
the-
CSD being
With either the
deficit by,
notation or it's gonna be a parentheses, which is a negative on that line item for for taxes income.
On the 25-26 budget.
right,
The
Yes.
current.
And I would just remind us, what the lawyer said, that at the end, when we get to dissolution, it's gonna be a simple case, which makes sense of who put in what and how do we rectify that. So, you know, I think it's important to have clarity right now. In the end, though, it's gonna get down to that anyway.
call for the question.
What was the second half though of the, I'm sorry, I don't understand what the second half of
Okay,
what
well, the second
we're
half
voting
is,
on
Christian, she gets it. In
The-
the next
I-
year's budget, 26,
Yeah.
on 26, 27, she's gonna present it less that amount with income. But in order to get through it, again, this is just, you're gonna have to figure it out, but I'm just imagining that the fourth quarter payment would be less, whatever that difference is, coming from the fire protection district.
But we would still have to vote on that as the next.
It would come up in the budget,
Okay.
but I wanna make sure it's part of the budget discussion.
Okay, we had a motion?
We had a second.
And we called for the question.
Okay.
We need roll call.
Director Melnick,
Aye.
Director Putz,
Aye.
Director Biro,
No.
Here we go.
Director J-Ro,
No,
Director Russo,
No.
Director Walsh,
No.
Director Ziegler,
No,
Director Herrick,
Aye.
Director Hicks,
Aye.
Director Segovia,
Aye.
So where does that leave us?
It leaves us why we're in the situation we're in right now.
Why I proposed that we didn't cancel, change
Yeah,
the schedule.
that's-
This is exactly why.
Yes.
Well, and also why this whole situation exists.
So where, I don't know if this is a chief or a Nick or a Kristen question, but where does that leave us in terms of budgets?
It leaves us with our current budget, which has full funding from both sides with a positive contribution to fund balance of 1.2 million. So that will be a challenge come audit time because it won't reflect what actually happened. That's where it leaves us.
And where does it leave us as far as an operating organization? I mean, that's the bigger question. We don't have a budget, so.
We do.
Well, we do, but we have in theory, $128,000 deficit. So where does that leave us?
No, we still have, because that was the budget we were trying to get past. The budget that exists has a bottom line of $1.2 million.
It leaves us with the previous budget where we're overfunding and we're putting a significant amount of money into reserves.
Correct.
Right? And in our effort, what we just witnessed now, to make sure everybody's clear, we made an effort to be consistent with the 50-50 funding and rectify the budget consistent with what we agreed to and where we're at. And we just simply asked for notation of that, and that got voted down.
I would like the meeting minutes to reflect what Randy just said specifically, that the purpose of us voting on that budget right now, the amended budget, was to reflect what the fire authority had previously agreed to, which was a 50-50 budget. And a 50-50 we all voted unanimously to follow the JPA, which was a 50-50, and I would like the minutes to reflect that that was what was voted on, that it was, because to go to what Larry ran into last time, I am specifically stating that the meeting minutes should state that it was the intention of the fire authority that the budget reflect a 50-50 budget, and that we could not get that passed because of the vote.
And then what I'm concerned about is where this leaves us going ahead. So we have a budget that's, in my opinion, out of whack and not consistent with what we've agreed on, and that we are overfunding it. So then I guess if we can't, and I don't want to try yet again, I think it's an exercise in futility, that then leaves us to focus on the next budget. So I guess on the next budget, there is an opportunity for us to make further adjustments. And maybe those further adjustments start getting into the territory that Chuck talked about, where they start getting more drastic because we were not able to agree on making the tweaks in this year's budget. So we kicked the can down the road, and now we're going to have a bigger issue and greater disparity to deal with in the next budget.
that's right.
Also, I believe that we tasked staff to figure out how to do a 50-50 budget.
So what if I,
Sorry. And as far as I was concerned, the footnote did it for me. But if we can't get there, we can't get there. I mean, it's just another example.
A quick question.
Another fine example of why we can't get a budget passed
I think at any
for years. There was a period of time that I was out with an illness came in after vote failing budgets. I couldn't even tell you how many times that happened. And then got back and we were able to get a budget passed. But, anyways.
So if I could share, could we get a clear explanation of what's in store for us going forward in terms of the budget, what the timing is, what, I guess the upcoming, what would that be, 26, 27 budget, when that's gonna come before us?
It's tonight.
It's tonight, that's our next item.
I thought that was just, okay.
Quick question. Kirsten, at the end of this fiscal year, I don't want to hear about fund balance. How much cash are we going to have in the bank at the end of this fiscal year?
I'll have to get back to you on that. Last year, we had $72,000 at the end of June.
That's how much cash we had
That's
in the bank?
correct. That's a very tight time for us, that's correct. And then we typically get a check from CSD for property taxes in early July, and then we're good until September.
No, I'm not trying to project. I keep hearing about a $3 million fund balance or whatever that number is. That's why I want to know, how much money do we have in investments or sitting in the bank at end of June going forward?
Right now, we have $1.5 million in the bank.
And that's all, assuming no more money comes in, that's all the cash we have at the end of the month.
As of today,
But that's all allocated for expenses, right?
yes.
So we have no money.
So what is the fund, I think,
The fund balance includes equipments and money owed
The
and
fund
that kind of
balance
stuff.
I anticipate to be about 3.5
But
at
what,
the end of June.
but what is a fund balance?
The
Define
fund
that.
balance includes assets minus liabilities,
Okay, what assets are we talking about?
current assets, so cash and then liabilities, meaning things that you subtract out things that you owe. So cash, receivables, like property tax or ambulance receivables, those are your assets. And your liabilities are bills that you have to pay right now, things along those lines. That's what fund balance is, the difference
So
between those two.
subtract the liabilities from the assets. You're saying that we have $3.5 million
3.5.
in equipment and in cash and that kind of thing.
Equipment is in a different category. It's a different calculation called net position. It's a larger calculation. So fund balance is just current assets minus current liabilities.
Okay, again, for me, because I'm losing it here. Define assets for me.
Cash and receivables.
How much do we have in receivables?
It depends on what, right this moment?
Yeah.
Right this moment, we have approximately, I think it's $1.5 million in ambulance accounts receivable. And we have property tax receivable from the CSD, and I don't have that number at the top of my head at the moment.
And that, with the 1.5 million that we have in the bank, that's our asset. So,
And I was gonna bring up tonight, so Chris and I have been talking, we have obligations that are like basically unfunded liabilities that are being talked about right now, which is right now, we have almost $1.6 million in PTO that will be due June 30th of 2027. And we have an SB Sarah loan for almost $786,000. We have a Bank of America loan that has $993,562 on it, and we have another Bank of America loan for $769,315. So just that right there is over $4 million that is going to be due.
so we have no assets. That's our liability.
Those are long-term liabilities.
Yeah,
That are going to have to be
paid.
Absolutely,
at the end of June next year.
we will.
We're still on item number 8,
Right.
which is the 25-26 budget.
Okay.
So I mean, if
So
we think
I
there's
have
going to be
another
extra
question
money
on
left
the
over.
item that we're on now, if I could, please.
We're still,
On the item that we're still on, I have a question. Can anybody from CSD articulate or share with us why they voted no on this? I'd love to understand that, because I don't understand.
Because we passed the budget in September the other way. We passed.
But we agreed not to follow the budget.
Yeah, because we agreed that it was gonna be super easy to amend the budget, is what I was told.
And we also understood that had we not gotten our act together at some point, the state was gonna come in because you're required by law to have a budget within a certain amount of time, and we were starting to bump up against that window. That's why.
So why did you put it on the agenda?
I didn't put it on the agenda.
You're the chair.
Who put it, oh, Larry.
In May, a budget was proposed that was the 8-6 mixed. I voted no. You came back in September and 7 more budgets were proposed, always 8-6 mixed.
I'm sorry, why was number 8 put on the budget? I believe Step Director Segovia requested that this, at the last meeting, that this be put on the budget to reflect the 50-50 split.
What do you mean by 8-6 mix? What's that
8
mean?
million from fire protection, 6 million from CSD.
Oh, okay.
And each time I voted no. Now, you want us to go for a 7 million to 7 million split. We don't have, the CSD does not have the 7 million, short of spending our future to do that.
And nobody's asking you.
So would you, Larry, have voted yes if we had made it a 6-1 or 6-2, 6-1 or 6-2?
Yes.
And then shown the extra funding as a separate line item? Would you have approved that?
No.
Would you have approved a budget that would have started shutting down stations because we didn't have enough money in the budget to cover them?
If we are spending more than our income, no, I would not approve that.
Okay, so you would agree to shutting down Sugarloaf and or the Big Bear Fire Station?
You better think twice.
So, Larry, you in effect then have issue with us paying more, right? Then that's what I'm hearing, is that
I
right?
didn't ask you to, but you voted for a budget that does that.
Okay. So you'd prefer we don't pay more?
I'm in favor of the 50-50. As you have often said, we needed to either find more money or live within our means.
Well, the budget was proposed at 50-50 in the finance committee with cuts, and you voted it down. So, in my whole point of previously approving a budget to move forward was to make sure we just noted the difference. We had to note the difference so it didn't get swept under the table and ignored. And that's why we moved forward with the budget at that time. As long as it was noted that there was a big difference in what was being paid in by both agents.
At the finance committee meeting, it was suggested that we accept a gift from the fire protection and go something other than 50-50.
It wasn't a gift. It was cuts. We were going to brown out stations, was the suggestion. We were not going to fund the reserves. And we were going to get rid of, I believe, some of the BC trucks. There were several other suggestions in finance which would have brought it into a 50-50, exactly 50-50, and it got voted down. So now you're in favor of 50-50. It was presented, and it was presented to you in finance, Larry. And you, at the time, agreed to move forward to present it to the full board and then voted it down.
Exactly, to present it to the board.
Well,
Did not
however
approve a
you
budget
wanted
that
to
was
say that we didn't want 50-50, that's incorrect. It was proposed very hard in the finance committee to move forward with a 50-50 with a presented budget as Kendi had laid out with exactly how to get there. And it was voted down, and we went through all these different iterations of the budget to finally get to the point. And again, I was in favor of moving forward with the budget as long as it was noted what the difference was.
I want to be very clear that it was never, ever characterized as a gift. It was
Absolutely not.
I
This
mean,
was
I just
no
want to be
gift.
very, very clear that the increased payment was to make sure we could operate. It was never, none of us ever characterized it, Fire Protection District never characterized it as a gift. And so I think that that's an absolute mischaracterization of our need, our understanding of the community's need to continue to be able to operate without shutting down any stations. And that was proposed, but it was never characterized and never intended to be a gift. And I want that can be put in the meeting minutes.
We're gonna go around and around on this. Can we move on to fight over the next budget, which we won't have?
Typical marriage.
Okay, yeah, we need to move on. All right, so we're going on to 9, Big Bear Fire Authority Board recommendation, fiscal year. Okay, fiscal year 2026-27. Kristen.
At the May 19th board workshop, 2 budgets were presented. The first was what the 26-27 budget would have looked like had everything remained the same with the funding, which would have resulted in a fund balance contribution of 1.8 million. This was presented only as a baseline for the second budget. The second budget followed the same methodology as the amended budget that was just presented, with a positive contribution to fund balance of 321,000. This budget reflected invoicing each side for 50% of the authority's expenses, with the understanding that CSD would only contribute what they receive. At that meeting, the board requested Chief Wagner to make further cuts to the budget, keeping in mind that operations would be winding up for the authority next fiscal year. He was also asked to make the property tax revenue coming in from both sides exactly the same amount at 6.5 million each, as well as adding the fire inspector position back to the budget. And this next slide is going to outline the suggested changes to the proposed budget in May. We were asked to list changes individually so that the board could choose the items they'd like to cut without having to vote no on the whole budget because they didn't agree with some of them. Starting with the positive fund balance that was presented in the May meeting of 321,000. I'll move down the list to show the impact of each proposed item. First is to reduce property tax by 483,000 so that each side contributes the exact same amount. The finance officer at the city let me know they would be collecting the Bear Mountain parking lot and cell tower revenue going forward for a reduction of $4,387 and $28,674 respectively.
Can I ask a question on that? I'm sorry. If the fire protection district you said is gonna collect those?
That's correct.
Were those ever revenue to us then?
They were passed to the fire authority and shown as fire authority revenue for the last 10 years.
So they were part, and so
they've been part of our budget, and so now with the fire protection district doing their books instead of me doing their books, the money is going directly to them and out of the fire authority's budget.
So it came to you, but then it went back to the fire. I'm not understanding how it was.
The revenue itself came to the fire authority and went into the fire authority's budget. It was agreed upon in the beginning of the JPA that we would handle certain items such as this that way. So that's how it's been handled, but now it's been shifted back to go to the fire protection district budget rather than the fire authority.
Okay, so it was an asset that was contributed?
Just revenue, just the revenue that came in.
So it was additional revenue that the fire protection district agreed to pay to the fire authority beyond the property tax revenue? I'm just trying to understand. I'm sorry.
I think what we've done in the past is Willis was the one that was negotiating the cell tower it was just, they were overseeing it. It never was being negotiated and whatnot by the city.
Right, we were managing the contracts and dealt with Snow Summit and negotiated increases and elected revenue.
But it was an asset of the fire protection district.
The parking lots and the cell tower are FPD assets, yes. And I'm sorry, I understand now. Yeah. Okay. Restoring the fire inspector position would reduce the fund balance contribution by 164,000. On the positive side, proposed budget expense cuts include reducing fitness testing to suppression only for 10,000, eliminate property tax forecasting 10,000, eliminate fire hose replacement 4,000, eliminate rescue rope and hardware replacement 5,000, reduce travel 14,000, eliminate training yard improvements 5,000, Eliminate community promotion, 5,000. Eliminate employee appreciation, 3,000. Reduce board meeting stipends to quarterly. Eliminate refreshments, 14.8 thousand. And eliminate the placeholder for DTA services for 20,000. If all of these changes were approved, the fund balance contribution would be a negative 262,000.
Still a hole.
The total revenue reductions are 512,000. Total expense reductions, 96,000. And total expense increases are 164,000 if the fire inspector position is put back in the position. Staff recommends the board consider the proposed budget changes and the approval of the fiscal year 26-27 budget.
Public comment. We have yes.
Can we do questions first before we go to comment? Please.
Okay.
Kristen, when I look, this is page 2, and I'm looking at the revenue, there's a less FPD property tax adjustment of 1.9 million.
Right, that's the amount that we would not be receiving of Fire Protection District tax revenues. So total Fire Protection District tax revenues, it would include that 1.9. That's just the amount that we wouldn't be receiving.
Okay,
But you
but
guys would.
that column won't add up then, right? We can't add those numbers.
It's a negative.
It's a negative.
Well, but if I take 6.9 million and take away 1.9 million, that only leaves a contribution of 5 million.
You add 1.9 million. To the 6.
Well, either way, the 6.5 doesn't, whether you add it or subtract it, it's off by over $2 million, right? I'm not.
No, I don't think so.
I actually ran a calculator on it, and it's correct.
Okay.
Okay, I don't understand that. Kristen, you mentioned up here, let's see. Oh, yeah, the reduced property tax for equal contributions by 483,000.
Right.
Is that reflected anywhere down below?
That is included in the less equity property tax adjustment.
The 1.9?
It's included in there. So that's the amount so previously I didn't get you to 50-50. The 400 and what is that number? 483,000 gets you to 50-50. So I just increased that reduction by 483 to make this budget exactly equal.
Okay, I mean, maybe I'm math challenged, but if I look in the total column on page 2, right? The total of 13 million is the sum of all the things above it, correct?
Right.
With the 1.9 being subtracted out.
Right.
And when you add those all together, that you double checked it, it comes out to 13?
Yeah, I did, because I was amazed. I thought, wow, we did it.
Yeah.
We did it. And I wanted to make sure, so I ran a calculator on it. So no, it's right on the money. Not that I didn't trust you.
No, thank you for doing that. I
But
appreciate it.
I was like,
starting to doubt
wow,
myself, so thank you.
it happened.
Okay. I have another question. And this starts getting into the carryover from our previous agenda item. Is there, or I guess we can make it a priority to compensate in this budget for what we overfunded in our current year budget? Because we talked about doing that in this budget, right?
Yes, you could definitely make that suggestion and try to implement it as part of this approved budget if you'd like.
So based on the budget that is in place right now, not the one that we weren't able to approve, what would be the size of the discrepancy between funding between the two agencies?
For last fiscal year, that was $1 million, so you could propose to reduce the contribution to fund balance an additional $1 million. And that would reflect, that would reduce property tax revenue by $1 million.
Okay.
Then wouldn't we not be paying 50/50? I mean, we would, on paper, it would look like we're paying less than our 50%.
It could be noted that it was for.
Or you just do it as a separate line item. Just do it as a separate line item, that would be cleaner.
It's just the same issue carrying over. There's a discrepancy in how do we communicate it.
But then, we're looking at right now, $321,000 surplus, right? Based on the paper.
That was the amount in May. With these proposed changes, it would be negative $262,000.
This doesn't take into account
So-
the liabilities.
Right. We still haven't talked about that. I mean,
Can I just ask a line item question?
You bet.
Brady, is that all right? I'm sorry. So under professional services, we have the trans cost of issuance, which is $50,000. I still don't understand, it's not a professional service, why it's there.
The attorney fees and such.
And as it relates to that, given that it's the same document every time from the bank, I'm not really understanding why we can't negotiate down the legal fees for a document that if anybody runs a red line can see is the exact same document as virtually as last year. And so I don't understand if we're doing the same one every year, maybe we can negotiate those legal fees down. I mean,
They did go down from the first year. It was significantly more. I can look back in history and see.
but it's worth a conversation.
Sure. We also have we have more than one attorney working on it. We have also a representative, a finance. I can't remember the term that she uses, but she coordinates the whole thing. Do you remember the name of Anna?
Well, I mean, we should talk about how we pay for lawyers too, and that we should only be paying for one, not multiple at the same time, and what the billing rules are for our lawyers.
I'm glad to put you in touch with the folks who run it.
I'm happy to have that conversation overall about legal spend.
Sure.
Then the other one is interest expenses under other expenditures. So is the cost of the Tran loan the 50,000, and then is this interest expense
Yes.
for the Tran loan?
Correct.
So
That would be if you borrow the full 3, correct?
no, that's 265.
It's typically around. It's been typically around 50, but it was 65 this year. So this was just an estimate of what it might be next year with the uncertainty. But yes, that is purely interest for the Tran.
And then, and I know it's a conversation, and I think somebody else will probably bring up some of it, but as it relates to PTO liability and overtime liability, one of my questions would be, and I'm not talking mutual aid and those kinds of things, I would imagine that if we're paying overtime for someone, there should be a corresponding PTO deduction for someone else, because somebody's out on PTO, so we need we need to pay overtime to cover that PTO. Is it a 1-for-1? So do we have documentation that shows use of PTO as it relates to the necessity for overtime?
Yes, and I just received that this afternoon, so I'll be
I'd
forwarding
be
that to you
really
for
curious to see that.
I have.
So nobody is allowed to have overtime unless somebody else is using PTO for their time off. Absent, I'm not talking mutual aid and things we get reimbursed for. I'm talking day to day as we pay for overtime and as people accumulate PTO. If somebody is calling in, we have it documented that they have used PTO, and the only way somebody can get an overtime shift is because somebody has used PTO to take time off.
Not necessarily. So if we have a transfer that goes out at say 6 a.m, and that shift would have been going off duty at 8, and those people are off the mountain past 8, then they can accumulate overtime for the time that they're coming back from that. And we've had cases where people have been performing department-specific duties on their time off, and that is, they're working on their time off for something that they were requested to do. I've seen overtime accrued in that instance. Again, I've printed out for a year, all that stuff. Well, I haven't printed it out, but I have it all digitally because it's a lot of paper. And again, I got that this afternoon. I can talk through.
Is there a way to cut that? So if we've got people who are on shift, then they are the ones that are doing the additional things as opposed to paying additional overtime for other people to be doing things?
Yeah, right now, there's nothing that comes to my mind that we have people working on at this point. So I don't anticipate that we'll see that, but I mean, we're looking at.
Because I'm just trying to look at the big buckets of where we have expenses or liabilities that are not necessarily put in here. Of are there ways that we can reduce PTO liability? Are there ways that we can reduce the $2.6+ million that we pay in overtime? And are we doing all the operational things? And it's not an accusation, it's a question, that we can reduce those huge, that's where the huge dollars are. And,
It's kind of a bigger conversation because the board approved a policy back in 2015 that talks about all the PTO and overtime that they can accrue. So as Kristen, I have a list here of what everybody's PTO bank looks like and how much money they could, like, if they called it all in. Like, I know Jeff Willis, when he walked out, he got cut a check for $135,000. He had accumulated 600 hours over what he was allotted to in this policy. Like, we let it go over. Not we, but admin or whatever. So this is like a whole separate discussion. And, the guys also, they get what's called FLSA time. So I think maybe you're thinking, like, if somebody works, like a normal shift, they go into normal overtime. But I mean, you'd have to understand the FLSA agreement too that they have, because they work 24-hour shifts. So, I mean, this is a very big issue here. And they're going to be able to accrue this up until the end.
So is the PTO in the MOU the accrual, or is it a policy?
It's in this policy.
It's in the MOU.
We would have to renegotiate.
So why do we have a policy if it's in the MOU?
Nick would have to explain that. Nick and I have been talking.
It was probably negotiated into the MOU and then a policy adopted to follow the MOU required.
Would you mind circulating that piece of the MOU and the policy? I would like to be able to see that.
Any other board member? Okay, we have some
Larry.
members of the
Larry.
public. Oh, sorry, Larry.
In professional services, I would assume, how much did you budget, no offense, for Ochoa?
Specifically, I'd have to go back and look. I bumped it up for this fiscal year, is that you're talking about? I increased it this fiscal year, so I'll get back to you on that.
The last roster was almost 20 grand a month.
I will definitely get back to you on that.
And I see that it's recommended we drop your tax consultant, but then the question has come saying that the retirement needs to be investigated. What happened? So would we then have to bring on Isabel Safi to explain what happened in our retirement and therefore an additional BBK charge?
Yes, and I did increase the legal fees in the 26-27 budget, I believe, I bumped it up to $200,000 to try to cover all of those various costs that I anticipate will be coming our way. I did my best to estimate what that might look like.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry, don't forget that the cost for the audit, the CLA investigation is included in the Snell and Wilmer bills. It's a pass-through.
Another question for Chris. So the reduced board meeting stipends, That's just based on us having fewer meetings, so we're still getting stipends.
Right, that's based on 4 meetings per year, 10 people.
Okay, because I thought we had suggested eliminating stipends, not reducing them just by having fewer meetings.
We did look into what that would look like, whether or not we could actually even legally do that, and I think Dakota has some information on what she found.
Nick confirmed that all the board members can individually waive your stipends if you'd like to. It's probably the most expedient way, and if you'd like to do that, you can do that in writing ahead of time, but you don't have to. Otherwise, if the board as a whole wants to formally eliminate stipends, you would have to amend or change an ordinance from 2018.
Better ask the citizens what the hell they think, I'll tell you.
And I want to reassure the board that you can continue to make comments, but perhaps I could suggest, out of the respect to the public's time, we could hear them.
I think we need to finish doing our discussion questions and go from there. I have one question. Kirsten, if we were to stop off-mountain transportation on July 1, what kind of impact would that have? What kind of impact would that have on our budget?
There were a hell of a lot of dead people.
If I remember correctly, the last time we looked at this, I believe the revenue piece associated with that on an annual basis was $450,000. So I know that would go away, but I'd have to look at exactly what that would look like as far as eliminating costs, because I don't think we would just cut an ambulance out of service or anything like that. So I'd have to more closely investigate what we could actually cut as far as costs go for that. But the revenue piece is for $450, if I remember correctly.
Okay, because, I mean, if I'm reading this right, we're still looking at a $261,000 deficit, then we need to stop doing something, because clearly we don't have cash in the bank to do it. We're hoping that we get reimbursements, to cover our costs as it is. So we need to look at saving every nickel and dime that we can. And it's, again, I think as Perry indicated earlier, it's the responsibility of the hospital to take people off the mountain. It's our responsibility to transport them to the hospital, but it's not our responsibility to get them down to Loma Linda.
Well, before we go on with that, so the question I have for you is, with the 261,823 deficit, are you confident you can have a balanced budget with that particular deficit at the end? Because we're coming to a conclusion here in about a year.
When you say balanced budget, do you mean
what I mean is
get through the year without cutting service, or?
Yes, that, and also that there would be basically enough cash to cover this particular deficit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's not a problem.
So it's not a matter of cash. It's just, you can set your own personal, well, let me finish before you jump in, Chuck. You can set a budget which is a deficit budget, or you can set a budget which is a positive budget, but it really doesn't have anything to do with, I'll call it cash in the bank. If it's a deficit, then you're going to be spending the cash that you have saved. If you have a positive budget, you're going to put in cash in the bank because you haven't spent it. So there's enough cash that this is irrelevant. This is not a negative bank account figure.
But Rick, it is. I mean, we're looking at $1.5 million of PTO that we're going to have to pay for it come June of next year. We're looking at loans that we're going to have to figure out either how to pay off or transfer to the individual agencies come the end of the year.
I understand.
So
I understand
this budget.
Make suggestions. This is where we get stuck. Make suggestions of where you'd like to cut. I think Kristen's done a very good job of getting us to this point. But if there's other places you want to cut, start cutting suggestions.
Well,
because we gave basically the assignment to Kristen and our chief to come up with this type of budget, so we could get through the year. And I think they accomplished it. But if there's something else that you're more comfortable cutting something, you got to come up with some suggestions
Well,
of
Rick, I
what
think
you'd like to cut.
I think I started by saying, one, no more transport off the mountains come July 1. I think that's a start on it. But I think up until finding out here about a week ago that we have about $1.5 million, $2 million of unfunded liabilities, yeah, it's gonna take some time to start figuring out where are we gonna cut $2 million? Because we're gonna have to cover those costs.
Rob a bank.
So, yeah, I agree, we need to start making cuts. But, let's be realistic, let's get the real numbers on the table so we can know what we have to cut. Right now, these are not realistic numbers. I know Kirsten has done her best she could based on the numbers that she has to work with. But if we're finding all of these other things starting to come up that we're gonna have to resolve at the closure of this organization, then we better figure out how to pay for them now. And
I don't disagree with you, but there's gonna be cash left over. I have faith in that.
Rick, how
But
is there gonna
if
be
you want
cash
to-
when we've already said that we may have $1.5 million that we're contributing to reserves right now? And we've already talked about $1.5 million.
I understand. I totally understand.
PTO.
Suggest cuts then. Start suggesting cuts. Otherwise,
Well,
we're never gonna get there.
But again, we need to know what the numbers are. We don't know what the true numbers are at this point. Because there are things that we haven't been told as far as what our obligations are. You show me in this budget where that PTO is referenced. Show me. It's not there, unless I missed it.
It's a liability. I'd be glad to show you it on our financial statements. That's not an income statement item. You're not gonna see it in revenue and expenses.
But
You're
Kirsten,
gonna see it on your balance sheet as a liability.
I understand that, Kirsten, but the problem is when we're presented with a budget, especially an end of life budget, which is what this is, we need to know what all of the numbers are. And I don't care,
I
you
think
can
we
put,
provided that to you, did we? Did we not provide you with the PTO balance and the loan balances?
no. I've never heard of PTO until it came out a
No,
couple weeks ago.
guess I
I
just
sent you
provided
an
it
email
to-
asking you about it
So you're
because
the only one who has that.
I'm the only one.
I guess I had thought that had been communicated. I'm more than happy.
And,
It's an
and
SB Sarah loan, it's a 2 equipment loans, and it's the PTO.
Okay, then
Those different ones?
But like when we look at the budget, you have in this year's budget, which should be a winding down budget, you have for the two BFA loans, $158,000 in debt servicing. That's not a true picture because we're gonna have to satisfy these loans.
Those are just the annual loan payments.
Yeah, it's the loan
Yes, At the end of
payments.
the day, there will be liabilities that have to be paid off that are separate.
It
from
doesn't give us a true
operational
picture of what's
expenses.
gonna happen at the end.
So this plus those loans will be your picture, so I'll be glad to provide that
And, you know,
for
to be fair, Kristen did say to me, because to me, these are like, remember when we talked about before when Willis left Easter eggs? So these are some Easter eggs, and she did say, I'm happy to talk with you about any of our liabilities. Well, that's only the liabilities that for some, we find out about. I mean, we need like a list of the liabilities that are gonna have to be paid at the end. So we know all of
Those are the
them.
ones that I sent you, that's it.
That's everything. There's
That's
not
the-
one more loan, one more liability, nothing we're gonna find out as the two sides are talking.
As long as we're not talking about like pension liability, then just purely loans and liabilities, PTO, that's it. I don't know how the whole pension transfer is going to pan out, but
Yeah,
everything I provided you, that's it.
Would you mind sharing that with?
I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, and that's
There'll
where I'm
be
coming
liabilities,
from.
but there'll also be assets. So
Exactly.
But
aren't the
when
assets
it
being
comes to the
split?
final dissolution, you're gonna take your liabilities and your assets, and it's no fun. You've ever been divorced, it's no fun to figure it out, but you gotta figure it out. So,
Anybody else?
Madam Chairman.
Okay, hang on. Yes, Al.
Okay, now listen to me. I might be an old son of a bitch, but I know a few things about life and a few things about it. So when you got it in your head to discontinue transfers off the hill, that means if my wife had the problems she had then and she'd be done now, she'd be dead. You can't eliminate off-hill transfers. When the weather changes, the helicopter can't get out of here, but our four-wheel drive wagons do. But I'll tell you what, if you took the past and brought it up to where we are now, and the two things that happened to my beloved wife, she'd been in the local cemetery. So forget it.
But what we're
And
saying,
your
Al,
citizen is not gonna go for it.
all we're saying, Al, is the responsibility of the hospital. Nobody's saying that we need to stop off-hill transports, but we need to give it to the people that are responsible for it, and that is the hospital, not the Big Bear Fire Authority.
Well, maybe a committee ought to be adopted, and maybe we should be discussing to the big boy over there. If you can, I will.
Director Butts, you had a question or a comment?
I think we're doing.
Well, I have a question for us collectively, and that is, to what degree do we want to address these upcoming issues like PTO, all the different things that we've been talking about, and consistent with Kendi's comment about a winding down budget, because this is our last opportunity, frankly, in an active year to address things, because, you know, a year-ish from now, then we're gonna be in dissolution mode and we're gonna be dividing things up. So I guess that would be a question I would ask of us collectively. Is there anything additional we would want to do in this budget to accommodate any of these other issues that we have? Because this is it.
Well, I just don't think this looks like a winding down budget. It looks like a budget we made some cuts out of.
Okay, and then that gets back to what Rick was saying to Chuck too, is so then what would you
Suggestions.
propose?
Yeah,
We
you
do.
start suggesting what the cut.
Well, it goes back to Michael. Let's find out what the real numbers are, Rick. That's where I am. I just need to know what our total costs are going to be for this fiscal year. And right now, I don't see those costs. I don't see the total cost.
So do you want to
And
bring
I-
this back to our July meeting?
Well, don't look to me to say whether I'm gonna bring it back or not. I'm just saying, we need to have some real numbers. And I appreciate that there's gonna be stuff left over at the end. But given the amount of money that we are obligated to pay at the end, we don't have the cash right now to cover it. But I just wanna know how much that is. And then that tells us really how drastic the cuts are gonna have to be in anticipation of where we're gonna be come June of next year.
It's a balance sheet.
The man is absolutely right.
It's just a balance sheet. Assets and liabilities.
Okay.
But it's different than a budget. You know, anyways. So what if we don't pass a budget again? Then what do we do, Nick? I think we're heading that direction right now. And I hate to have it sit here
and this is
until all
this
wee
is a-
hours of the morning and get nowhere again.
This is a 50-50 budget, correct?
It's beautifully laid out as 50-50.
Yes, it is a 50-50.
Right, it's a 50-50 budget, but we need to also know what we're looking at as far as big costs that we have coming up that we don't know about. This should be addressed in the budget, or at least help to address in the budget.
So do you want to bring that back to the July meeting? So maybe
We should
Kristen-
take public comment first before we.
Okay. All right, yeah, we do have some public comments. Miguel Gonzalez.
I have some questions just from sitting here actually and listening a little bit that might be a little bit naive and maybe you can enlighten me a little bit. My initial question on the paper is how long do you all have to study the budget you have in front of you for this topic tonight, if that can even be answered? If it can't be, just let me know.
Feels like a
And
lifetime.
I'm curious, I'm sorry?
It feels like a lifetime.
Okay.
But this is not, it isn't presented to
No.
us, just that we have it in front of us.
Okay,
We have
and I'm
workshops.
curious because you're potentially voting, my interpretation, and I could be entirely wrong. But the only thing that made sense to me was Kendi Milnick's, it was very quick and easy, that made sense on whether a deficit or credit and params. But I was in deer in the headlights for a lot of it, as I saw a lot of your faces as well. So it concerns me that a vote might have been taken tonight on things that are not entirely clear. The other thing that concerns me, two things, and I don't know the CSD's budget. I do, and this probably opened up another complete can of worms. But we've got, I'm getting lost here. where monies are being spent, not just in the fire department, but in the city. Example, Big Bear Lake, I know spent millions on a roundabout. Well, maybe we should, and again,
That
this
was
is.
a county project. I'm
Excuse
sorry
me?
to interrupt you. That was a county
Oh,
project.
that was the one in Moonridge?
No, but that was,
Okay, I'm talking about the one.
we
in-
got call me about it because I was highly involved in it. If
Okay.
you'd like to get
All
the
right,
exact.
well, and again, I'm just wondering, because we're spending money on other things where I think the first two things we should be focused on is police and fire department. Whereas Mr. Ziegler said, it's life and death situations. I think we should be really focusing on those first and then figure out where the rest of the money's gonna go. And the other thing that really concerns me is how we're so quick to say, shut down a Sugarloaf Fire Department, shut down or fight with the hospital about transport. Because these, again, that's gonna affect the mom who has to go down the hospital, the son who got into an emergency, and how callously we're able to say just, let's shut it down. That really concerns me. So I'm hoping we get some better hearts in here and think this through a little bit more before we're just quick to say, let's shut stuff down that could potentially affect me or somebody else. So that's all I had to say.
Yes.
Sure, real quick.
Wait,
No,
we
we're
have-
doing
hang on.
public comment.
Let's
Fine,
finish,
fine.
and then we'll get to you.
Go ahead.
Dina,
Good evening, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Dina Heald, and I'm the Finance Director of the City of Big Bear Lake. So what I would like to do is reiterate what your last speaker said. The fire services are obviously very important to the community, and I do not object. That is absolutely the number one goal here. That is the fire chief's job. However, I do want to express some comments, concerns, and pass on some compliments. The city, my understanding, I've been with the city all of 4 or 5 months at this point. We prepaid based on the adopted 25-26 budget, the 7.1 million. And I believe that's what the term was. It was prepaid under good faith. And there is a true-up process in which I anticipated reaching out to Kristen during the audit time to discuss the pennies, itty-bitty little figures that we have to talk about as far as a true-up, understanding the JPA relationship of a 50-50 share. That is a complicated, for lack of better terminology, I'm going to say a scorekeeping. It's ticking and tying all the details. The City of Big Bear Lake, the Big Bear Fire Authority, and several other agencies up here on the mountain, I believe, share the same auditors, Lance, Saul, and Lane. Kristen is shaking her head. Our jobs are to do scorekeeping so that we know what the final count is. You talk about finding your final numbers. We need to come up with a score. This is not me focusing on the fire protection services. That's the fire chief's job. But I do believe that me, Kristen, and the CSD individual need to get together and have some elbow time around a table to talk out the numbers. This is going to be a difficult transition, no doubt about it. It affects all of us, and the city's financials, the CSD's financials, the Big Bear Fire Authority's financials are all going to be impacted based on the scorekeeping that we do, that we put out there for the public, that goes on all of our websites. I understand there's the BBK and attorneys present. Great. I think we do need to consult as a group with our auditors. There are some big decisions being posed that I get squirmish in my seat because I was like, wait, you're going to change the 25-26 budget. There's all this conversation. So I do think that it behooves the board, and I would ask as a representative of the city, because my boss is not here, that you direct Kristen to work directly with her counterparts at the big city of Big Bear Lake and the CSD and work through these numbers over the next couple of weeks. Let us work together and collaborate and come back with a budget for 26-27 that answers all of your questions. Not sure what you want to do about 25-26. It's a budget. It's really going to be about actuals. But I will express on record, the city prepaid. And thank you. I'm not used to being on the side.
Glenn?
Good day, everyone. Everyone knows who I am. I'm speaking because Dina asked me to support her in comments just then. those comments reflect the PowerPoint presentation that Stuart Gary from Citygate put forward on trying to repair or fix the JPA. The JPA is gone, but one of his recommendations in the presentation, which I haven't seen the final report yet, where it says things like this, but I don't know if anyone's seen the final report, but the recommendation was to get the executive involved to assist the board in getting to consensus. As Dina pointed out, it's a good suggestion. It can help if we are interested in getting a budget approved or correcting the 25-26 budget. But I will do what my board directs me at a time if that's where they would like to go towards this relationship here in this room. Thank you.
Okay, moving forward. So what do you suggest, what does the board suggest about this budget? Did you have something to mention?
Well, I just wanted to mention that a couple of weeks ago, I made a point of what assets that was over here and what assets were over there. And come to find out, that's the hardest damn thing you can do in the world. Because you got all this new stuff to come in, and through the many, many years, a lot of that stuff that had some value to it is down the road gone, you know, probably in a junkyard someplace. But I'll tell you what, I know there's a couple big items that we could do to create some cash where it belongs to solve a few of these problems. And we just sit here and we don't do nothing about it. So I don't know, well, anybody got any rocks in their hands? But I'll tell you what, we went over there across from the high school and we bought a great big piece of land between that cemetery and between our little firehouse and Sugarloaf. And you know, that's a big asset you could sell and probably get a hell of a lot more money for it than what Chief Willis paid for it. That's one item. Number two, if you wanted to order a new hook and ladder truck tomorrow, you'd be damn lucky if you got one 3 years from now, okay? So it'd be very easy to peddle a damn thing, because we don't need hotels, we need fire equipment. Well, we don't need that big sucker when we don't go over two stories. We got a old timer sitting out there we spent 50 grand on last year just on the damn ladder. So with that said, I'm done making an ass out of myself today. Thank you.
Okay, so now, we're not gonna pass the budget tonight because some people want some more accounting. Is that correct? You want more
You
things
got
to this?
cards.
No, really.
What do we want? What do you want? We're gonna pass this budget, or are we gonna ask for more accounting?
One other thing that I would like to talk about is at the last meeting, it was stated that the most important job on the fire department is the fire inspector position. And my neighbor across the street from me is 92 years old, lives alone, had a heart attack, and I can guarantee you the fire inspector position was not who she was wanting to roll up in front of her house the other night. So Chief came up with a plan for his staff, the BCs, to handle the fire inspector position. And, who are we to take his work that he did, saying that they can handle that position, but we're gonna add it back in because somebody made a statement that it's the most important job on the fire department.
Well, and to that point, I think Chief Wagner can work with the budget. He and Kristen can work together to get things done.
Well, we do though have a recommendation potentially to add more of our city, Glenn, to see if they can work together and get something done.
Okay, so are we gonna table this budget until more work is done?
We can't.
I'm hearing dropping the fire inspector.
What's that?
I'm hearing you'd like to drop the fire
Yeah.
inspector.
Yes, they have time in their day that they can you know, handle those. And Chief laid out his plan at the meeting, at our last month's meeting.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Motion from Segovia and Herrick to,
Eliminate the fire inspector.
I wasn't at the last meeting. If somebody could just give me a 30-second or 1
So
minute.
Chief laid out a
while
plan on
abstaining
how
from this
he was
vote.
gonna do it. He's gonna have his battalion chiefs and himself run it. So he laid it out to us. But because it was expressed in public comment that that's the most important job on the fire department, it,
Found its way back in.
yes.
So if I could just ask a question, because Luke, are you comfortable with, it was your recommendation that this position be removed, but there is sufficient staffing to make sure that this job gets done?
Yeah, my comments were, we're gonna focus on the priority areas of our jurisdiction, which is the perimeters that butt up against the forest, so we would start there. The BCs can assist in that process, I can assist in that, but again, that's gonna be an additional responsibility. Will it be exactly the same as somebody that's solely dedicated to it? Not exactly, but we're gonna do what we gotta do in this last year to meet the needs and protect the public as much as possible.
Will the community are you confident that the community will be as safe with this plan, to the extent that you can say that, because one never knows, it's fire. And will there be overtime expenses that will go up because of the removal of this position?
No change. And I won't opine on what does that mean for safety. I mean, you can be in the middle of LA and, burn down a town. So I mean, it's definitely hard to say. But again, I mean, inspections versus compliance are gonna be part of the arguments as well. We could do every home and every property, but if they're not gonna make the changes that are recommended based on the ordinance, then you simply identify the problem. And a lot of these have been identified. And this will be, I think, the 4th season now that we're doing this. And we're seeing repeat offenders that don't want to make the changes. So I mean, it's a challenge, but that's prevention.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, the community safety is the responsibility of those homeowners who are choosing to or to not protect their properties and to protect the community. We can have firefighters or an inspector that goes out, but it's your responsibility as a homeowner to make sure that you are adhering to the requirements of safety on your property. And the inspector doesn't do that. It is each of our responsibility and everybody who lives in the community to do that. And I think people need to understand that it's not the inspector that does that. Correct. It is the responsibility as a community member to be responsible for keeping our community safe. Thank you.
okay, so to restate, this is a motion to provide direction to staff to eliminate the fire inspector position from Segovia and Herrick. I'm gonna take roll call.
Okay. Did everybody hear that?
Barely.
Barely, yeah.
Well, then, can you repeat it so we can make sure that when people are
Absolutely.
voting, they're
So
understanding what
this
they're
is-
voting on?
This is a motion to provide direction to staff to eliminate the fire inspector position
From the budget. Correct.
from the budget at number one, about $163,000.
For the 26-27 budget, so effective July 1st. I just want to make sure we're clear.
Effective July 1st, 2026.
I make a motion that we do.
Oh,
It's already
there,
done.
yeah, thank you.
Is that okay?
Okay, roll call please.
Director Biro,
Aye.
Director Russo,
Aye.
Director Walsh,
Aye.
Director Ziegler,
Hell yes.
Director Herrick,
Aye.
Director Hicks,
Aye.
Director Melnick,
Aye.
Director Putz,
No.
Director Segovia,
Aye.
Director Rowe.
Aye.
Thank you, that motion passes.
Okay.
Chair Rowe, I'd like to make a motion that we eliminate board meeting stipends and refreshments, and then we take whatever appropriate action is necessary to codify that.
I'll second.
All right, this motion is to codify the elimination of board stipends and refreshments. Director Segovia,
No.
Director Rowe, B-Rowe,
No.
Director Russo,
No.
Director Walsh,
Aye.
Director Ziegler,
Aye.
Director Herrick,
Aye.
Director Hicks,
Aye.
Director Melnick,
No.
Director Putz,
Aye.
Director J-Rowe,
Aye.
motion passes.
So we're a volunteer position?
It would have to be brought back to be formally changed, but this is just direction to basically update that line item in the budget, those line items in the budget.
We're volunteer and hungry.
Is that the case?
I
with
brought
the
my own
transcripts as
sandwich.
well?
Did you bring enough to share?
Thank you.
No, this is, no,
Are you gonna
this
cut
item
that
is
10?
it's still direction on what budget they want to consider.
No, I don't know if Al got the right message there.
I'm sorry, is,
The vote's
See what
on.
happened? Who did it?
Al got the right message?
He's not
We
sure
were
that he.
voting
Yeah, you're
on,
not supposed to give him messages how to vote.
No, he didn't understand.
I don't think you understood.
did you understand that we were voting
Doesn't
on
matter.
removing stipends and refreshments?
I'm opposed to that.
That's what I thought.
You know, I've served on this board for over 8 years with my good friends right here. There's a hell of a lot of knowledge right there with that guy and this guy. We're on the same boat, and I disagree with you. Because it's the only damn line that we have communication with the citizen, and I happen to communicate with our citizens quite well. In fact, there's a couple of them sitting over there holding up the wall.
Okay, so where does that leave us then?
You
So-
can't do that.
So that vote was complete, it was approved. There could be a motion for reconsideration, which must be made by a member who voted in the majority, seconded by a member who's in the majority, here at the same meeting. So if someone would want to undo that, a motion for reconsideration could be considered.
So that would be Walsh, Herrick, Hicks, Putz, or J-Rowe can do that.
So,
Move to eliminate the stipends and the snacks,
Reconsider it.
Just reconsideration.
creating a new motion.
so I have a question. Are we now in a scenario where after we vote, we discuss and coach members to change votes? Is that where we're at now?
I don't know if he was coaching. I
He
think
just
he
said
was.
he was.
What?
You didn't get the
I
message.
just know how he thinks, and I think it
Don't
was
think he
thinking
understood.
something backwards there.
So does he rely on you
No.
to interpret for
Oh,
him?
no, that's not
For,
No, I don't change that around, it's like, I just.
well, that's why
know-
I'm asking the question.
No, I said, I don't think he knows, and that's why I was
Then
having
you shouldn't be voting
Joe
on it.
tell him, I didn't coach him.
So
The
should he-
remedy, Nick has given us the remedy.
Should he,
Okay.
The remedy is what Nick suggested.
And could you explain that again, please?
The back wall that I was talking about, sitting right over there with Robert, is a good example.
All right,
So under the rules of order that the board follows, there could be a motion for reconsideration. It has to be at the same meeting. And it has to be, the motion has to be by a person who voted in the majority. So one of the members who voted aye would make a motion. It can be seconded, and I just clarified this, it can be seconded by someone who voted in the minority. If that motion to reconsider passes, it essentially undoes the vote that was approved, and this board goes back to the status quo.
So it would take a second motion.
If there was another motion made. But this is just a motion, it would be a motion to reconsider.
Did the motion carry or not?
The motion did carry, yes.
I withdraw mine. The motion was carried.
I don't understand, Alan, I'm sorry.
I couldn't hear you, Larry. What did you say?
They probably.
The motion passes. I'm in favor of that. Therefore, I withdraw my motion to reconsider.
Okay.
So we don't have a motion to reconsider or a second.
So it
So it
stays as
passed.
is,
Stays.
So it passes.
unless somebody else chooses to.
Let me just say, for me, I know I spend a lot of time on this fire department. And when we have, a bunch of stuff in the fire department that nobody's willing to cut out, easy things like the battalion chiefs driving their rigs up and down the hill, my little stipend, I'm gonna get nothing for coming here. It's gonna cost me money. It's the principle of the thing. When this fire department is not willing to make the cuts that need to happen.
Amen.
Yeah, I think for me, I lose money coming and I understand that, but there is a value to the job that we do, and it is an important job that we do. And I think this idea that we're going to balance the budget off of cutting our stipend is, I think it shows, for me, no disrespect to the people who voted, a lack of respect for what it is that we do. We sacrifice, we understand what we're getting into when we seek public office, but there is a real value to what we try to do for our community, and $130 a meeting is nothing. It does not account for the extra time, the responsibilities, and we understand that. But I think we're diminishing the value of what we do by saying that we don't deserve even a little bit. I'm fine, get rid of the food, whatever. But I don't want to do that for a future person who's coming into this seat. And I just think there is a value to what we do, and there is an importance to what we do. And even if it's a nominal amount, we volunteer enough of our time. So, I realize we already voted on it, so we should move on to the next thing.
We need to cut out stuff like the, beverage service that we're paying for, granola bars and water bottles.
We aren't changing anything tonight. All we're doing tonight is saying, staff, come back to us with a code change. And if the majority, when it comes back, decides that they don't want to change this, then it won't change. So this is just to say, staff, come back to us with a recommended code change.
Although to clarify, the
Joe,
refreshment.
one quick comment.
The refreshment part would be automatic. It's the stipend part that we have to bring back, correct?
Well, that assumes, yes, that's correct. It also assumes that you approve a budget with all of these items included.
Oh, there's that.
Yeah.
I want to offer, I've been in this situation before when I was on school board where things were really tight and unpleasant and uncomfortable. And one of the things we did was vote to remove our stipends. And I agree with everything you guys said. The purpose in that case was to demonstrate our willingness to take one for the team or make a sacrifice or whatever when we were asking others to sacrifice. So it was probably more, the word is representative. The other thing to consider is that there might be other motivation for that cut too, and I'll let you fill in the blanks with that. Or
Right, but
talk to me later.
hopefully you had a school district and board that was working with you on making cuts. And so far, the fire department, we're paying the fire chief. He's still getting paid. There are more places that can be cut, and it's not being done.
I just urge you to, we can talk more about it, but think holistically.
So what you said is correct. What we're doing tonight is affecting future elected people.
Not for very long.
Not for long. Yeah. We're talking 6 months.
Future elected people.
6 months.
6 months.
I
Only
understand, but
talking
still,
6 months.
what you said is
And a
correct.
meeting every quarter, that's 2 meetings, that's $260.
No, but I already laid out for me, it's not the money. It's the fact that I have spent tons of time researching and reading and going to ad hoc meetings and, being committed to trying to fix this. And now, I'm the only one that's taking a cut? Oh, okay.
No.
Look, I'll show up whether I have money or not. That's not why I do it. It's
So,
just good principle.
can I give a suggestion to the chief? You hear we're split. If you want to fix this a little bit, find another place to cut. Because 14,000 was actually for cutting out 2/3 of the meetings, correct? So it's 1/3 of the meetings essentially. So if you break that down, that's about $7,000 approximately. Cut someplace else, find us $7,000, let us move on. Okay?
I mean, the truth of the
And he
matter
will-
is,
and
we
he will
can
do
always
it.
just choose not to, it's
Yes,
it's
Mr.
not gonna balance the budget.
Heavy on the mister, please. Let me tell you something. I've been on this damn hill since 1974. And when I look in the audience, and when I look at what I serve with right around here, we got people here that's got the knowledge of the valley. And when you start bringing new people and putting them in here in my chair, they don't have the knowledge of the valley. And they can't make good decisions because they don't know where in the hell the donkeys are. So what I'm trying to tell you is, I'm very happy to serve with the people I serve with because they're top-notch qualified, and the bulk of them are business people like myself through the many years before I got hurt. And so I'm completely opposed to eliminating the fact that I can represent Bob O'Barr or whoever else in the community. That's my damn job, and I do it. You can ask Bob O'Barr out there if I don't do my job or not. And so does he, even though he's not a member of this group. That gentleman puts a lot of hours in on what the hell goes on here. And you know what suffers? His business and his family. Same way with the good lady over there. If you want to start changing things and then you want new people in here, I'm afraid that you're going the wrong direction because you're not representing the people. You represent the people through the people that's sitting right here at this desk. So don't be cutting pennies and costing us dollars. There's other places you could cut things. I've often wondered, what the hell are we doing with Baldwin Lake Fire Department? I know that we rent it and then we turn around, we subcontract it to Cal Fire. I understand that. But I'll bet you anything, if the truth was known, there's some cost involved there. And if I had my choice between Sugarloaf Fire Department and Baldwin Lake Department, I need the Sugarloaf Fire Department to represent my following.
I guess the question is, do we want to give the staff one more month to come up with some
Yeah.
legitimate
Exactly, that's exactly what I was
numbers,
gonna say.
legitimate numbers and legitimate cuts?
Take this back, let Chief work his magic, because he has in the past, and see what he comes up with.
I was,
To what end?
I was gonna recommend or make a motion that Kristen work with the Fire Protection District and CSD so we can get a full understanding of the wind down, the costs of what we're looking at over the next year, what the fire authority is looking at over the next year, and come back with a full picture budget for us to look at. Because if there are things on the balance sheet, when I look at this, I don't get a sense that there's money left over at the end for us to divvy up. And if there is, I would love to be able to know that in the whole picture as we are adopting a budget.
You want those loans and all that?
I think we need to
included.
understand how
I'd be glad to provide those loan
No,
numbers
I
for
understand
you.
you're gonna, but it's hard to look at a budget and go, oh, we're making good fiscal choices when I have no idea at a year from now, when the budget is at the end of that budget year, what we have in the bank.
So that's what I'm trying to get clarification on, what you're asking for, because Director Hicks is asking for legitimate numbers, and I guess I want to understand what that means.
I would
So
second
we
your
have-
motion,
I have
Carrie.
our budget here, and I think this is solid. I think what you're missing is those liabilities, the 3 loans and the PTO, and I'd be glad to bring those back. But outside of that, I don't understand the request for legitimate numbers.
I think that we need some expert.
That's why I'm asking for
some-
clarification.
I think we need some, I'm sure CSD has a finance person. We have a finance person. We need to have them work together and come back with better, work with you, work with them.
What do you want them to help me with my budget with exactly? I'm just trying to understand what.
Perhaps it will help you get a budget actually passed.
Oh,
When you ask, Kirsten, what am I looking for? Okay.
Yes, that's what I'd like to know. Thank you.
At this point, I don't know how much we're gonna have to spend over the course of the next year. I got the fact that there's a budget, and I got the fact the operational expenses that we have, I still have questions about it, but I understand those numbers. But when I look at how much money do I need to make sure I have at the end of 26, 27 fiscal year to start covering those shutdown costs that we're going to have, I don't know what that number is.
Okay, understood, and I can provide that for you. I just didn't know what exactly you were
that's-
looking for. So thank you for that.
But I
background.
think it would be beneficial, since this affects CSD, in the end, it affects CSD and it affects the FPD.
There's no argument. I think the three need to get together
Yes.
and talk about it so we can come up with whatever the consensus is as far as the numbers are. Because see, for me, that goes back to, with that full understanding, Kirsten, then I will be able to come back and do what Rick has, and that is to say, where do we need to really cut? Because right now, I don't think we really know where we need to cut. And I'm thinking, and I could be wrong, that if the numbers come back the way I think they're going to, we're gonna have to cut a lot, just to make sure that there's money left at the end to start paying some of these costs.
The man's right.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff.
Gary did make a
Melanie
motion.
already had a motion.
Oh, what was it then?
Her motion.
Did you get a second?
Was.
I did. I seconded it.
Can you
She wants to look for the Easter eggs.
Melik's motion was to work with FPD, to direct Kristen, the finance director, to work with FPD and CSD to address budget questions as it relates specifically to the dissolution of the JPA.
And to be clear, to work with the finance people, not just FPD and CSD. It's to work with the FPD or the city, whatever you want to call it, finance person, the CSD finance person, so that we can fully understand.
A wind down.
Yep.
Well,
I like it.
we don't exactly know those numbers, but we're gonna get close.
So
I'd like to be on that committee for a
It's
change.
not a committee.
No, I say I would like to be on that
No,
damn
there's
committee
no-
for a
there's no
change.
committee.
We're not doing a committee.
But
Yes.
Harry made a motion and I seconded
I
it.
think Randy wants to.
Yeah, I want to make
do
a
second.
comment on that. So I'm okay with that, but one of the things I want to make sure is that we anticipate things. For instance, we were caught off guard by the current PTO, and I would ask that we anticipate what the PTO over the next year is, and that we truly arrive with our eyes wide open to what, in our final year, what a wind down budget would look like, so that we don't find ourselves in a position when we go to wind down that someone somewhere has a big bill to pay.
That's what Chuck
That's
said.
what-
I think that's what,
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to get
What
to.
you
That's what
just
Chuck
said,
said.
to do.
But I think what he's saying is, let's anticipate what the next,
Exactly.
as we go forward, if there's gonna be more PTO. Because it might just be based on where we are right now, so let's look forward to the future.
Okay.
Call for the question.
Yep, we already have a second. Call for roll call.
Well, that too.
Does everyone understand what we're voting for here?
Seriously?
And if you don't ask, then before we take roll call.
It's easy for the buttons to come off. So, to be fair.
Why don't you,
Director Ziegler, are you taking roll call?
Al.
why don't you
He's waiting to
explain
get
it
a-
to
I took my damn hearing aids off. Please reply.
Alrighty,
Aye,
Director
nay.
Ziegler, we're voting on directing, the Director of Finance to work with the finance departments from FPD and CSD to address the budget as it directly relates to the dissolution of the JPA.
I greatly recommend it.
Director Herrick,
Aye.
Director Hicks,
Aye.
Director Melnick,
Aye.
Director Putz,
Aye.
Director Segovia,
Aye.
Director Biro,
Aye.
Director Russo,
Aye.
Director Walsh,
Aye.
Director J. Rowe.
Aye.
Passes, thank you.
We agree on something on the budget?
To kick the can
Yeah.
down and have other people.
We all
do
agreed
it.
to kick
We
it
did.
down the road.
I think we should do this one.
Okay, moving on. Okay, do the directors have any closing comments?
Yeah. Let's get
Yes,
the hell out of
Mr.
here.
Walsh, wait a minute, you have closed. Mr. Walsh,
When the motion was made to increase our stipends, I voted against it. When the motion came to double our number of meetings, I voted against it. I don't disregard the time you put in, Candy. I realize that. I too put in time.
Yes, he does.
When I suggested that holding extra meetings just created more expense, I was told, well, then you don't have to take it if you don't want it. Okay, so if that's what it takes, fine. If I can do it tonight, if I can sign a form to not be put on a time card, I'm okay with that.
Okay, so Director Walsh, you'd like to waive your stipend for this
Yes.
evening? Okay, thank you.
So we don't have to, you're saying we don't have to take our stipends, is that what you're saying?
For himself.
It is an option.
Okay, ready? Moving on. No director's comments, other comments, okay. We're going to be moving into closed session. We have a conference with legal counsel, and the placeholder. Second, conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to government code 54956. .9BI. Name of case, Big Bear Fire Professional Association versus Big Bear Fire Authority. And then conference with labor negotiations government. Okay.
Do you need to ask for public comment on that?
Yeah, do you have any public comment on?
We do not appear
Closed
to have
session.
any public comment for closed session.
Adjourning this meeting at 7:56.